Hi, I'm Peachy.
I'm Patrick.
And I'm Jeff.
I went sultry there. And this, you may know this guy.
Hello.
This is Mikey, Hellstorm Wargaming. Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And journeying down as well. Up,
Yes.
down, sideways.
Down.
Down.
Yeah, down.
Yeah, you're a northerner.
I'm a bit
True
of a northerner.
northerner.
Yeah.
I'm a believer in that. You travel up and down the country, and north is going up the country. When people say it the other way around, it annoys me.
No, it's very strange. But no, I'm like the wall. Anything past that, wildlings.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I grew up.
What, where the wildlings are?
Something like that. I always think that's the wildlings are over Hadrian's Wall because I was close to that.
That's
Wow.
true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep them out, mate. Keep them
That
out.
was the first defence, and it fell quickly.
But in the old days of old, Scotland, you would have been in Scotland, wouldn't you?
Oh, would I?
Yeah, I think so. I think Scotland came all the way in, like, sort of William Wallace time. You'd have been. I think you would have actually still be. You'd have been in your tartan and screaming with your big blue face.
That was an impressive
enough.
tangent straight away.
Straight away.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm getting the northern vibes because you've got good heads of hair.
Yeah,
Good mighty beards.
You're massively outbearded.
Midlanders just bold.
Yikes.
I've come down to the Midlands and my hair is thinning now. So
Yeah, exactly. We just
Just
all
the
like.
air.
that's
Just the air.
it's the correlation.
Yeah, it's good.
But anyway,
Yeah.
game well done on 5-0 in the tournament that you just
Thank
did.
you,
How
yeah.
was the weekend? How did it all go?
Yeah, it was really fun. It was kind of like a bit of a happy accident because my girlfriend was away this week and I didn't have anything to do this weekend, so I messaged the organiser. I was like, do you have a spare ticket? They're like, oh, we've just got one. So I went along and yeah, I ended up winning all my games, which was really fun. Sunday was really sweaty because it was two excellent players with really, really meta armies, But I'm running a meta army myself because I tend to play Space Marines and they're quite good at the minute as Iron Hands.
Nice.
But yeah, excellent weekend.
So, what did you use? What was in the army then?
So like
For anyone watching, obviously, that might not have seen it.
yeah, so Iron Hands are like they've got like a lot of toolbox stuff, but their main thing is they have all their guns are really efficient because they just try and take as many heavy weapons as possible. So it's a little bit toolboxy, but essentially it's a bunch of land speeders and land speeder storms with the transport for the scouts.
Yeah.
Because scouts, they can take thunder hammers and a sniper rifle on the sergeants now. And
Oh, right, okay, that's an interesting combination.
which is quite funny. I call it the Halo 3, if any of you played Halo 3.
Yeah.
Gravity hammer, thunder hammer,
Yeah,
gravity
yeah.
hammer.
I'm going to come back to that in a minute, but carry on. There's something about that that's interesting.
Yeah, and it's like a couple of infiltrator squads, and it's just as many heavy supports as possible. So it's like Gladiator, Devastators in a drop pod, the new Desolation t-shirt launchers, because they're quite fun.
Oh, right, okay.
People kept coming up to me and being like, are you taking these for a meme? And I'm like, a little bit, but they're actually quite good.
I saw a post on Reddit recently that was like, somebody explained to me the math why these aren't great. And apparently, like, I mean, I'm not a competitive gamer, but people sit at home and figure out all the specific math, and and they're like, no, you should be able to take this and take that and that variant, and you can't with the Desolation Squad. Is that right?
Yeah, so essentially, like, a missile launcher in 40k is kind of like you shoot anti-infantry version,
Yeah.
blast, or you shoot the crack version, which is anti-tank. Whereas the Desolation Squad, they have indirect fire, which is quite big at the minute because nobody really has it, so people get caught out by it. But then the missile itself, you have to choose before the game, which is part of the model, which everyone is a bit like, don't like that,
okay.
bit rubbish.
Yeah.
But then they're actually quite good.
Yeah.
Because you can take the anti-crack, the crack missile, which is like high strength, high AP, high damage, so it's really good at dealing with tanks at long range, but also if any nasty infantry get in line, they just melt.
Mown down.
Yeah.
That's
So,
good.
Have you built them as they were?
pardon?
Have you built them as they are, or have you tinkered with the
Oh no, I
design?
built them as they came. So because I was painting them because I got a review copy, so I was trying to paint them for the release day.
Yeah.
And I was like, I could convert these, but I have
Yeah.
like 2 days to paint them.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah,
be
it's
like,
fair.
it's just-
Yeah.
I built 5, painted 5. The other ones are still on sprue. So.
I've seen someone do like the rocket pods go on the back of the backpack, and then there's like the other whatever cannon because
Yeah.
like all the guns.
I think the favourite I've seen, which I think works because it still physically works, is people have done them with just that little Gatling gun style thing underneath, and then on the backpacks they've used rocket pods from the aggressors.
Yes, yeah,
and that looks
I
quite
like
cool.
that version.
Yeah.
I
So
thought that looked quite good.
I did a bit of a Photoshop session on the stream trying to work out the best way to do it.
Oh, cool.
Because there was one that was just like multi-melter arms and then las cannon and then a missile launcher on the end of it. It was just really bad. So I was like, I can do this better. So, but yeah, like putting the aggressor grenade launcher on the backpack does look really cool. You can say that's the indirect version. And then make the cannon underslung, kind of like the heresy versions that they have now, which actually looks quite nice. If I've got the Photoshop, I'll send it through so you can. But yeah, that's
smart.
Yeah, but when people are just kind of going, oh yeah, this looks way better, and they just go rocket pod, the big missile launcher on the shoulders, and touching the head.
Yeah, I'm not falling for that.
The glue is just,
no,
don't do it.
Definitely a brother tinnitus after that, isn't it? It's just those, or was the other stuff as well on top of that in the army?
So actually only those from that kit, because I like the Dreadnought. He's really, really cool. Big claw boy.
With all the guns.
Yes, all the guns. Yes, he's very, very efficient for a combat unit. But he's a little bit expensive. Yeah. Because I don't know, it's a bit pricey in my opinion, and because the game is quite
points or both.
Points, to buy. Yeah, he's still locked in a box right now, so he's still expensive to buy. But points wise, I think he's a little bit expensive as well. Because everything like 40k is like got such weird peaks and troughs of the game, but everything's so killy right now. So if you take anything that's too expensive and you like walk it out to the middle border, you go and try and deal something, it just dies. It's like, all right, that's 200 points gone. Oh, that's 600 points gone because I lost all 3.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a bit strange. But
how is it keeping up with the meta and bringing a competitive list to a tournament? Like, how much?
It's a full-time job.
Yeah, because I was going to say, how much brain space does that take up? Quite a lot.
It's a bit strange because it's kind of like, as long as you've got to kind of like learn how your army functions and trying to like, chisel your list. So like try and make every point count, every command point that you spend before the game count.
Yeah.
But then you've also got to be like, okay, I'm going to bring this list and it's got all the guns and all the combat, but it's kind of slow. But then you go against an army that's like, okay, I'm just going to keep away from you and sit on all the objectives and you can't touch me. And it's like, oh, I just lost even though I've got like 9,000 cannons that could delete everything you've got. But it's kind of like, you've got to kind of be aware of what the opponent can do, kind of plan for that sort of thing. What can you do and where are your weaknesses and how can you combat it? Which is kind of like the Desolation Squad is a good example because like they have indirect fire and maths-wise, in most shootouts, they are pretty rubbish because they're indirect fire. There's the balanced data slate, which nerfs stuff if you can't see it. So you reduce the ballistic skills so they hit worse. Gives the opponent an armor save, gives it a better save, and then they get in cover as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, they're not very good. But in certain matchups, like Gene Stealer Colts, and they're just wearing t-shirts, you can give them +1 save. It doesn't matter. They're still going to fall over.
Fleshy peeps.
Exactly. If you've got Desolation Squad shooting another Desolation Squad and they can't see each other, nothing's going to happen. They're just going to bounce. They're just going to be like, oh yeah, cool. Yeah, I can see your Venga bus over there. Yeah, that is mine.
Like a Space Marine punch out, isn't it? Not really.
Quite literally launching t-shirts over. Just like, oh, thanks.
Just the opponent's merchandise.
Yeah.
Talking of t-shirts, I do appreciate that as well. That is pretty good.
Yeah. So John Scrivens drew this for me and put it on a t-shirt.
Good old John.
Yeah, so when Space Marine, the firstborn went from 1 to 2 wounds, obviously they've been training for 3 years. Got an extra wound.
Oh, fantastic.
So I want to get back quickly to the Scout Sergeant being able to have a Thunderhammer and a sniper rifle. Right. So I remember when we were in the studio making, I wasn't making, I was painting, but the rules guys were like, you can't, we're now not going to make data sheets for things that don't come in the box that aren't direct from that kit.
Funny that.
What the hell?
Yeah.
I mean, I get a sniper rifle because you can get the sniper rifle scouts.
Yeah.
But a Thunderhammer, I mean, is he literally like sniper rifle, Thunderhammer?
I have 2 in the car. I'll show you before I go. But yeah, quite literally, it's the one when normally he's like holding a sniper rifle here and he's got a scope in this hand.
Yeah.
Chop that hand off. Any Space Marine Thunderhammer you can find. It's just like a gigantic hand and a big hammer.
And is that an Iron Hand specific rule thing then? Or?
No, just Space Marines.
Drives me nuts.
Because in the latest field manual with the points, a lot of this older Space Marine units, because no one was taking them, their upgrades became either free or super cheap. And Scouts are 60 points because they're like 12 points a model. But then they have no upgrade costs. So you can take everything without paying any points. So you can take Scouts with bolters for 60 points, or you can take Scouts with camo cloaks, 4 sniper rifles, a missile launcher, and a Thunderhammer for the same points.
Why?
Okay. In my brain, from having dabbled in that side of things within the military, I just had the sculpt in my mind was the thunder hammer in the ground and him using it to lean on.
Yeah,
Get a decent shot.
yeah, that'd be good.
Classic pike and shot style.
Yeah, absolutely right.
But there's some hobby terrorists, I call them, that just get taking like Vanguard veteran thunderhammers with the hand and just sticking them on the back of the cloaks, and then that's it.
With
The hand is still attached. And it's just like, oh right, okay, you said violence, right? I see that.
Some of the early Lord of the Rings tournaments I used to see where there wasn't because like a great example was Corsairs of Umbar. Were better if you had two hand weapons, like two axes, because for some reason you could have like that as an option, even though the kit didn't come with it. They just came with cutlasses and stuff. And people I've seen like
I know where you go with this.
Dwarf warrior axes, but they're all left-handed. So you'd have like left-handed axe and a left-handed axe with a left-handed hand on it, and it's just like you've got your Gondorian army. You spent hours painting like finding some Corsairs of Umbar.
I dread to
The heck?
fingers could head up to you, know what I mean? To go that way. Right.
So I suppose having it on the back isn't as bad as two left-handed Corsairs of Umbar. That is no wonder they got purged by the Gondorians. Absolutely.
So, do you have to have with the sniper and thunderhammer? Do you have to have it modelled on, or could you say it's got a thunderhammer?
It's a bit. People do, and some tournament organisers don't really mind.
Yeah.
But some people do care, and it's a bit like, oh yeah, these guys with chainswords have actually all got plasma pistols or they've got plasma guns, for example. And
Well, sure, it becomes confusing, doesn't it?
yeah, exactly. If I look across, if I'm on a game and I'm like, right, okay, how can I score as many points in this turn? And I look across and say, oh, there's a unit there, and they're just sniper rifles, for example. Then in this example, it's like, okay, let's shoot me. I'll take a couple of wounds. I'll be okay. I'll take that risk. And then he goes, oh yeah, they're actually all got thunderhammers. It's like, oh, and now it's your turn. And now I'm going to lose my thing. So it's all about clarity. Like, the whole term Wysiwyg is what you see is what you get.
Where do you stand? Because I had this as came up as a whole row on Facebook once, and I just thought, and I'm quite Wysiwyg when it comes to how you model things, but somebody was saying, I don't think it's acceptable to, if your captain is carrying a holster, I don't think it's acceptable for there to be a plasma pistol in it.
Well, it's a holster, so it doesn't really
And
matter.
I personally think if he's got a sword,
that's what worked for Necromunda.
if he's got a sword and a shield, as per se Primaris Lieutenant, but you decided you weren't doing the gun, you were just doing sword and a shield, and then he's got a holster, but that loadout is that he can have a plasma pistol, but you can't see the plasma pistol.
I think with that you can be a little bit more lenient because his hands are busy, right?
And that's what I think. But there was someone was like, no, it's got to be in his hand. How would you know? And you go, well, you tell them.
Yeah,
or it's on the sheet, or whatever.
From a visual point of view, I remember someone saying that the holster doesn't like it should hold a plasma pistol, and
I'm like it should hold a bolt pistol.
Exactly, it's more like a las pistol, doesn't it? It's like designed for like a las pistol. So it's like
at least it's got big.
The
now
argument
with
there is rubbish.
Primaris holsters look like they fit the gun. To
absolutely.
be fair,
but I think you have to kind of just like take it with a pinch of salt sometimes. But it's like kind of like there's a point you can go to. Like not every Space Marine has a grenade stuck to them. But they all have grenades. But they're just grenades. Whereas if it's like it's like a special weapon that you've normally paid for in your list. Unless you're Space Marines, which you don't, but if it's something like that is like could be quite quite impactful on the game, then you probably should have it, and that's why you see thunderhammers with hands attached on the backpack. At least it's there. It looks silly, but at
the
least
weirdest
it's there.
rule I used to, I'm going back to Lord of the Rings again because that was the tournament I experienced. Bit of Warhammer as well.
Metagamer for the Lord of the Rings.
Oh, absolutely. Damn right. Eastlings all the way.
He was problematic.
I was, I was definitely problematic on the grand tournament scene back in the day. And I remember I was playing against a guy, and he had what they're called Haradrim. He had some Haradrim, and he had the new plastic cavalry, the Haradrim Raiders. So they were plastic cavalry. You get 6 in the box, and he counted them as Serpent Knights or Serpent Riders. I think they were like the elite. But he had some Serpent Riders, and he counted them as Haradrim Raiders because they were metal and there was less of them because he wanted the cool. But because it was a count as rule, it's like if you have these, you can't then use that same model kit to represent another kit in the army. You have to use something else as a count as. And I'm just like, no, it's not. I'm like, no, they are modelled and sculpted as Serpent Knights, and they are Raiders. They should be counting as the opposite. That's what they are. So I used to like really drive me nuts.
The one where I almost got to the point.
But maybe I've just been a bit of a Nazi.
Where I almost got to the point of grabbing somebody by the throat in my local Games Workshop store was a guy who wouldn't back down on. This was back back in day, 3rd edition.
Back in day.
And he had Khorne Champion on a Juggernaut, and the Khorne Champion had a jetpack, and it was carrying the Juggernaut around the board. I was like, how strong are his thighs? Just like,
I mean, I came to my tank.
That's some good yoga, isn't it?
Well, something my dad taught me when I was on my motorbike is like, I used to like use my hands as support and stuff like that, and I used to get really achy wrists. He's like, no, cling with your legs and your thighs.
And so you reckon you probably got the thigh muscles now to jump a Juggernaut?
I reckon if I had a jetpack, I could lift that bike.
You reckon you could jump that Juggernaut?
Channel.
We'll start with the watermelon. See how that goes.
And when I went, that's blatantly, and he went, doesn't say you can't.
Well,
And you're
yeah.
like,
Doesn't mean you should.
Really?
Yeah.
So
Like, I never understood Space Wolf Scouts. Do you remember they used to be able to, I don't know what they can do now. They used to be able to come on from the back of the board,
Yeah.
and they were led by they would be led by Wolf Guard.
Wolf Guard, yeah.
Wolf Guard sergeants, basically, weren't they? And people used to model them where the Wolf Guard sergeant was a Terminator.
Right.
And you go, and it doesn't say you can't, but the idea that you're sneaking around the back of the board and everyone's in like just cloth, and they've got this, and they go, don't mean to be rude, Sarge, but can you give that a rest?
well, it's like the scouts, isn't it? You got the sniper scouts, you got the guy with the rocket launcher. It's like,
Yeah.
Dave,
Yeah.
we're sneaking in.
It's like that really, really old video with the Velcro. It's like, I've got tactical Velcro.
Yeah.
Remember this one? It's like, you won't be able to hear it. Listen, and he goes, so they all just shout really loud when they shoot the missile launcher. They'll never see it coming.
Yeah. Oh,
So I
dear.
want to talk about your journey, your hobby journey.
My journey.
So I know we went into like meta kind of straight away, but so you're a Sheffield boy, is that
I
right?
am. Yeah.
I worked there for a time at Meadowhall, so
Nice.
I know the population there.
That's where I got taught to play Warhammer.
Probably
at
not by
Meadowhall.
me.
No, it wasn't by you, sadly. I do still talk to the person that told me,
Yeah.
but yeah. So it's about. I was about to say 11. It wasn't 11. It was 17 years ago I learned to play. So I was 12.
I would have been around the time. I would have been.
Really?
Yeah. So I think it was 2005. I did my training. So I don't know if that. I'm probably getting my maths wrong, but regardless, I was only there for like a handful of weeks to do my manager training course because you get given a shop around the country. But I love Meadowhall. I think it was a really nice shop. And I went to the Moor a few times as well. But there was a couple of guys in our region because Sheffield and I guess Hull, Grimsby, we're all kind of within our local region stuff. So I know that place well. So tell us about Mikey and him being a young boy, going into Games Workshop. What got you into the hobby?
It was mostly Lord of the Rings.
Good.
So obviously watched the movies.
Strong start.
Yeah. My friend, I ended up seeing my friend had some Lord of the Rings models, and I was like, what are these? What's going on here? And he was just like, oh, they're from this Games Workshop. And I was like, where are they from? He's like, oh, and I lived like relatively close to Meadowhall, so we used to go there all the time anyway. Young 11, 12-year-old kid knocking about in the shopping mall, we've all done it. And I ended up wandering in and having a look at Lord of the Rings. I didn't even look at 40k at the time. And I think it was around the time that the 5th edition box was being launched, so it was the Assault on Black Reach.
Yeah.
So it was just before that came out that I started like going in, and then so my friend at the time who showed me Lord of the Rings, he was like, oh yeah, I have all these old models, do you want them? And I was like, yeah. So I saved my pocket money up for months and then bought a Chaos Rhino, some Khorne Berserkers mixed with Possessed.
Nice.
They're just lots of awful kit bashers.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
So you got to start there though. You got to start there. So
Yeah, exactly. Chuck all your bits in the bucket, throw in some glue, shake it, and see what happens. But yeah, and then I ended up picking up those, and there was a club at school as well that actually did it in an evening in the library. So 6 proper nerds.
Nice.
Went in playing Warhammer every Tuesday night. So I was
That's
like,
good.
oh yeah, I'll join in and do that as well. And then all downhill from there, to be honest.
Good.
Yeah.
So you say Lord of the Rings was your entry. Then what got you into 40k? What was it that was like? Was it like Black Reach? Or?
It was literally I picked up those models, and then and then I was like kind of playing Dawn of War at the same time.
Oh yeah, big yeah.
Yeah,
I think
because
that got a lot of people in.
Wait a minute. that's from the video game.
Were you a metagamer for Dawn of War as well? Because there was a fair few of those in our store.
No, not really. I pretty much only played the story. rack up all your bolter turrets, you know, and then just hope for the best.
Yeah, yeah. I remember we used to have a land centre near Derby. We used to go there like a group of customers, and the staff would every like Wednesday night or whatever go down to Landsport. It was called, good name, and we'd play Dawn of War. And there was always that guy who had like literally his base was just an entire field of heavy bolter turrets and dreadnoughts.
Yeah.
He'd be like, oh god, this is going to take so long. And there you are, finishing the first line of heavy bolter turrets, and then they've just been repaired.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, because every single one of your troops dies, so you've got to go back to your base, recruit. You come back, it's like they're all repaired again.
Yeah. So I started playing Dawn of War. I was interested in Lord of the Rings because of my friend. Picked up those models. Ended up picking up Black Reach because it was a big launch. It was like, oh yeah, we'll get on that. And it was £45 at the time for the starter set with the rule book.
Yeah,
but been a long time since I started playing.
Yeah, well, no, I mean that's a good point. I mean, I remember the rule book being about 20 quid, and then the box set being about 40.
Okay,
I remember having to order extra because we used to have these little corner tickets you'd stick in all the corners of the boxes, and I remember we always running out of 40s because that was the core game, so like Lord of the Rings, Warhammer, 40k. So yeah, 40 quid.
Was Black Reach the first one that came with like a small rule book?
Yes, yeah. So it was the
like a get you by, wasn't it?
Yeah, the orange, small orange one.
Yeah,
with Space Marines and Orcs, and Meadowhall at the time was doing a painting competition. I was like, okay, so if you get it painted in a month, come back, best one wins a prize. So I was like, me and my mate split the box, and we were like, okay, I'll paint these as Blood Ravens, because I love Blood Ravens, still play them today.
Yeah.
And then you can paint up the Orcs, and we'll come together. And then I was painting away, and then about a week before, my entire army dry brushed. You know, I was a young lad, didn't know how to paint. And he was like, oh, I've not finished. And I was like, how much have you done? He's like, I put the green on. And I was like, cool. So I'd helped him do that. And then I go down with my box, all happy, ready to enter the competition, and the store's dead. And they're like, just the manager's in. I'm like, oh, I'm here for the Black Reach painting competition. He's like, oh, okay, you're the first one. So I like laid my army out. Yeah. No one else turned up. No one else turned up. So I automatically won.
I mean, you won. That's the important bit.
Yes. So I got a prize, and it was pretty much old stock that they were supposed to be sending back to the HQ. So I got a Chaos Land Raider. Land Raider Crusader with the metal bolters, because they were like about to change out for the plastic one, and Chaos Terminators in the blisters, the metal one.
I remember that back room. It wasn't really a room; it was a corridor. It was tiny, absolutely tiny, because it was like the emergency exit, and it was like that's where we used to do like staff training and chats. It was so tiny. Was it Dave Brighton there at the time then? Was he the manager? Because he was the one that trained me. Ponytail, long hair, he did cut it short, really vibrant blue eyes.
No, it was they had a new manager in called Carl at the time.
Carl?
Yeah.
I don't recognise Carl.
Yeah, and the guy who taught me how to play was called Gaz.
Okay.
Plays Infinity now, but you know.
Yeah.
So we're still good friends, so he still lives in Sheffield.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, so that was pretty much how I got into the hobby properly. And when I started playing Space Marines, I've been playing Space Marines pretty much ever since. So.
Brilliant.
So you did that, random jobs, I guess, before doing Hellstorm Gaming?
Yeah, I went to college and did music because I was going to be a music producer. That was the plan.
I did music when I was growing up as well, and I didn't want to do it. I wanted to do media, but everyone was like, "Don't do media.
Yeah,
that's worthless." And then here I am now doing the media.
Yes, exactly. So I did A levels for a year. Hated it because essentially to do the music course at the college I went to, you need to be able to read sheet music. I was in a band. I couldn't read sheet music. I could read tabs. I played bass. So So I ended up doing that for a year, and then I did music production for 2 years. Sorry, recorded an album. It's awful, but it is out there.
I mean, you got a boy band feel to you right now. The three of you together would be great.
Good. Yeah.
I don't know what we're calling it.
Is it the hair?
I think it's the hair. You need glasses. I think that'll tie in nicely.
Yes,
be a nice sort of like hipster band.
So a few people have done. I got sent by two different people some fan art of the three of us. Like you sent me one, and then Cherry, our graphic designer, sent me the others, and I find it really hard
to tell between
in cartoon form who's Pat and who's Jeff.
Well, once
just post them and hope for the best.
Yeah.
I was once meeting Pat for lunch, and I'd got there early, and it was that place in Sherwood.
Yeah.
And I got there early and sat down, and I said, my friend is going to be joining me, and the waitress went, all right, and I went, just imagine this, but a bit smaller.
And then I wandered in, and she was like, "He's over there."
Excellent.
Yeah, and I was like, "Why did she know automatically?" And then you explained. Yeah.
But yeah, so I did that for a couple of years. All my friends who I was in the band with had already started uni, so I was a year behind. And I got some places at university to do music as well, and my family was kind of like, you could do that, or you could go get a job. And it was kind of like, okay, I'll look around. So I ended up getting a job at the university in Sheffield in engineering. So I did that for just shy of 7 years. And then this weird thing happened with the world where everything shut. And redundancies came along. And thankfully I had this to kind of fall back on. It was kind of like, you know what? I don't really want to try and get a job when everything's shut and everyone's getting rid of it. Let's give YouTube a try full time and see what happens.
It seems to have spurred quite a lot of people's channels, doesn't it?
We were chatting to Dave, MS Paint, and he said COVID was the main push for him to start
the COVID bubble that everyone enjoyed for quite a while.
And I suppose it was for us in a roundabout sort of way, because you probably wouldn't have ended up at GW if COVID hadn't happened.
No.
Because the weddings would have been in full steam and you wouldn't have had to go there. And so I suppose it's had a bit of a knock-on effect for a lot of us, really, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like it's. I know it had a negative effect on a lot of people, but it's had a lot of. Well, it did have negatives. I don't want to make.
Yeah, I know what you're trying to say.
That, but it's
a lot of people suffered, but some people did all right off it. In our position,
it's changed my life. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Here we are in an increasingly warm room under these lights.
Cozy.
Love it. I came heavy with the extra layers, and I wish I hadn't.
See, I put a jumper on, and I'm just like, fucking idiot.
Some days
on the floor.
It feels warm outside. You get in, and you're like, oh my god, it's freezing, and it's just because it's me. It's just me.
I want a studio by the summer, like somewhere that hopefully has aircon, because this is brutal.
That will be very cozy.
We've done a summer in here, haven't we?
Yeah,
and it was literally like it was just like dripping off the end of your nose level at some points, wasn't it?
Well, you never know. The hot tub better might come back.
You never know.
You never know. So Hellstorm started in the year of COVID.
No, it was actually quite a while before then. So so I was watching a lot of Twitch at the time, like about 6 years ago. It was late. I only remember through editions of 40k for any time period. So because trying to keep track. So end of 7th edition, which was about 6 years ago.
Maybe you don't talk to your family like that. But when it was like 5th edition. Do you remember 5th edition Christmas when the dog had the turkey?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, for that I just have to make up numbers and hope for the best. But yeah, so it's like late 7th edition. I started the channel because I was watching a lot of Twitch at the time, watching a lot of streamers, and I was like, oh, no one's really streaming any Warhammer. And there's loads of people making battle reports and stuff. There was the odd few painting channels as well. And I was like, well, no one's doing like live battle reports. And then I was like, okay, I could buy a webcam and see how this goes. So I started doing some live battle reports. I had 3 C920s, the Logitechs, at the time like 50 quid webcams, with extensions that always gave out halfway through the game, so you had to go and like reset the cameras and hope for the best. But yeah, so like I think they're still up on Twitch, and they might still be up on YouTube, but some of the first ones where it's just like essentially me in my shared house dining room with the microwave on the back wall and all the crap in the way, just like making live battle reports really badly. And then we were doing stuff like Star Wars Destiny, which is like a card game. We were all,
I remember that. Okay.
Yeah, it's like a card game with dice, which is really fun. So we were like, me and my friends were playing that because we like kind of met at the local shop that we were all playing on like a Tuesday or Thursday night, for example. We were like, oh yeah, let's I'm going to start this channel. Do you fancy giving us a hand? And so we started playing battle reports, like sprayed green terrain on a really rubbish battle mat and just awful lighting, awful sound. Like quite literally using one of these microphones at the side of the table for both of us, which was great. But yeah, and then 8th edition came along, and we were like, let's just do a 24-hour live stream. That'll be a great idea.
Oh, crikey.
So we did a 24-hour live stream of battle reports. So we did 7 battle reports for 8th edition. Non-stop 6 till 6, which was awful. Awful. So,
the last one, you just like, kill me. Kill me.
I'm pretty sure at 5 a.m. when we'd got the new box set, because they were doing midnight launch for the box, and I was like building the intercessors on stream, and I was just like delirious. I was just out of it. I went off for 5 minutes. Someone fed me a banana, right as rain. Off I went. So if you feel really rubbish, guys, eat a banana. Very strange, but the potassium, it must be.
All that potassium.
So And then yeah, so we're doing live streams, and then I was like painting on stream as well. So I was like going to tournaments and like, oh yeah, this week I'm painting this unit because I'm going to a tournament here, there, anywhere, and then and I was like, oh well, live stream battle reports are fun, but what if you started doing it on YouTube? And then it kind of like kicked off from there. We started doing YouTube battle reports, like more traditional filmed edited battle reports rather than live streams. And then COVID happened. Battle reports kind of went in the can because I can't have people in my house. I ended up moving out, and then me and my friend who I lived with in one house moved to another, and I was like, if we're going to live together, I need the dining room for the table and all the models. So I was like doing everything in my dining room, and then COVID happened, and then I was just like, I was fair low, and I was like, okay, well, I can make content, but what content do I make? And that kind of moved to my series called Coffee Time, which is essentially a Sunday show that I used to do, just talking about something I'd seen that week. Which then developed in a weekly live stream, basically doing another chat show while painting, and then it led to just me talking, and then it led to just me doing a weekly stream. I just laugh at the internet now.
I've been watching a few of those. It's good.
I was going to say it's really interesting. Like we said you were coming onto our patrons and ask if they have any questions, and and someone had said like, how do you think your content has changed? And I think effectively you've answered it there with like, you have to play battle reports against someone. And exactly. It's like, right, that's gone. I still want to make content. What shall I do? And how like that has progressed.
And watching the first type of talking head video, or like ones that I was doing just before that, like doing essentially I was exclusively doing battle reports or book reviews. And it was kind of like, it's really cringe. It's really bad. I'm just like, hello, my name's Mikey, and today I'm looking at this book, and I'm just like, oh god, I just hate it so much.
I mean, we've all been there. I mean, my first video that went on Warhammer TV, I'd say to people, like, watch How to Paint Tyranids video. It's awful. It's god awful. I got the new painters to watch it to give them some confidence. Because they were struggling behind the camera, like trying to like articulate and like get the energy levels. Like, watch this on my laptop, and I'm just there like going, I'm really excited about this.
Yes, exactly.
Gun just off camera. There of a gun. But I mean, you've got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, exactly. So if you do want to watch it, one of my most viewed videos is the second one I did, where I did the top 8 worst units in 8th edition, which was me and a friend of mine, Ernest, so we were doing the video together, and that was just as bad. It was really... the intro anyway, and I was on my own. When we were together, it was a bit more, a bit easier. But now I have so much unregulated confidence that it's just, I'm just an idiot now. You know what I mean? Whereas before it was really awkward.
So a video of yours that I watched recently that I thoroughly enjoyed, and I thought the title was hilarious, was about filling Rogal Dawn's hole.
Yes. That was fun. Again, from one of a live stream, it was kind of like, well, we were just laughing about it. I was just like, who actually cares? You know what I mean? Like, we don't turn his tanks over anymore. If you do, you hate your paint job, clearly. You know?
Ooh, aggressive.
Well, I was not expecting that. Sick and tired looking at Jeff.
There's a camera that likes the idea that a tank should have a hole at the bottom of it.
There we go. I'll play with this. Please carry on.
So basically, a lot of my live streams, obviously we have like the chat who are like, basically the second cast member of the stream, right? So like I'm like laughing at these people and being like, look, they've not finished it. They're charging 150 quid for this and they've not even finished it. And then I'm like, no, but who actually cares? And then like a passing comment from 2 people in chat were kind of like, why don't you just like 3D print a bit and like make a bit and then sell it? And I was like, okay, that'd be funny. I'll be a millionaire. Passive income. That's what it's all about these days, you know. Make some STLs, put them online, sell them for the rest of your life, you know. And I did that, and then I posted a picture on Reddit on r/Warhammer40k, and it got like 200,000 views in the first couple of days.
Oh,
and
wow.
It went to like 300-400 a couple of days afterwards, and then I got banned for a week because
why?
Because I'm in a lot of subreddits, I don't always read all of the rules.
Oh, okay, right, yeah.
And I was in the wrong, to be fair.
Like self-promotion or something.
Yeah, so basically I'd put like a picture of it, just the bottom is like, I filled Rogal Dawn's hole. Obviously.
It's never not funny, is it?
It's never not funny, sorry.
No, and then
please continue.
And then I like kind of like left a link, like I power bottom Rogal Dawn, and then left a link to the Cults 3D, which is where I was hosting the file. For
okay, yeah.
Got like £1 something. I make 99p every time I make a sale.
Yeah.
And then I was like, it's a link to Rogal Dawn's power bottom filler. Another chat again. Jake named that one, thankfully. And so I put that up, and then I got banned. But the post stayed up, but I couldn't interact with it. So So then I put on Twitter, just kind of like, tongue in cheek. That's what I'm like. He's like, I've been banned. They're trying to silence us. They won't let us fill the hole. But because obviously I got banned, but I've not been told why. So I messaged the moderators. I was like, just wondering why I've been banned. Can you let us know? And he was like, you shared a link, but also putting this on Twitter is really bad, and you're making us look bad. And I was like, like tongue in cheek, sorry, can you unban me? He was like, no, because you posted a link to the sale page. I was like, oh, cool. So
how long you banned for?
It was only 7 days.
Oh, right.
Okay. So by the time the Rogal Dawn actually came out, I was unbanned. But it was just like all these people being like, oh my god, where's this? Where can I get this? Or like, this is, why is everyone so angry at this? And I couldn't even interact with it. I was just like, I can't even upvote it or anything. I was just like, watching my creation go on, like a good piece of art.
We got bounced a little bit. We got bounced a little bit because we don't care that there's a hole in the bottom.
I don't give a crap.
And I won't mention the person because it best not. But I had a conversation with a sculptor at Games Workshop, and he was like, people just banging on about this. He says no one's talking about the fact how much more kit is in that than normal. It comes with so much stuff compared to a normal tank. And he says no one talks about the fact that you only have so much access to tooling, you only have so much access to things, and if as he said, better comes with a lot of guns than
exactly.
And it's this thing he said, people go, they're just trying to not put another sprue, and it's like, well, next
but that would have cost it up.
Yeah, and then the next thing you're going, we've now got a designer box that's deeper.
Yeah, exactly, a bigger box and extra sprue.
And then and then people, but it's this thing of if they said to you, you buy it, but then there's a Rogal Dawn upgrade sprue which has the sponsons in it.
Yeah,
people will be throwing an absolute fit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But they go, it's got no flaw, and all the things you want are in there, plus stuff you never thought you would dream of having. And then people still aren't happy. It doesn't seem to be but people always go to the conspiracy of why.
Yeah, all the time. I mean, I think it's just, for lack of a better term for it, like keyboard warriors. I love them. They're great. They give me a lot of content. But yeah, it's just people getting angry for the sake of being angry, and that's just one of those things,
Yeah, I mean, I know you talked. I talked to someone different really recently, and they were saying the same thing, that it would have had to be put onto a larger sprue. Which then meant it would be more cost.
Yeah, because again, you're pushing the tooling, and how every piece of kit, every model has to wait its turn to get done, and it's like, and then when you go, well, no, this exceeds what we're going to. We'd knock all it. It's not just a case of it being a flaw; it's schedules and everything else would get knocked out of sync, and people don't look at the bigger picture. They just go, "Oh, there's no flaw on that thing. I will never turn over."
Yeah,
and it's just
in the defense of the anti-holers, I think it's not the first time it's been done. We've seen like this thing before, especially like a lot of the easy to build kits. There's that. The famous
ATV thing, isn't it?
The ATV, exactly.
Yeah, that's not. No one got massively upset that didn't have a flaw.
No. Yeah, because it's push fit, so it's acceptable.
And then there was the Age of Sigmar starter Lord on one of the Dracoths or something.
Oh,
if you look underneath, it's just flat plastic.
Yeah.
And then the other one we were looking at was the Dune Crawler, the Adamek hover tank, which has a hole in. I think the problem with the Dawn and why it probably kicked off so much is because it's so like in your face a hole, whereas like the other stuff is like kind of like an indent.
Like
the ATV, you can see the driver's bum, but it's like an indent, and then the Dune Crawler is kind of is it Dune Crawler? It's not called the Dune Crawler. Dune Rider. Dune Rider. There you go. That's kind of like underneath as well, and you've kind of got like all the detail underneath. But with the Rogal Dawn, it is just a hole.
But in fairness to it, they come in, don't they? Back and front comes in, and it is a hole in the middle.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think you would really be able to stick your head on the table and squint to see that it was there.
Yeah, maybe, if you really try.
And I just think, really?
I think my takeaway from this, Jeff, is as passionate as some people are that there is a hole and it's bad, you're so passionate about how you just don't care.
And I respect that.
Maybe I am.
I think this is like the third video where we've spent 5 minutes talking about it, and I'm like, Jeff is very passionate about not caring. It's a good hill to die on.
Everything in my on my tombstone, it will say Jeff Savory lies here. Everything should have a hole.
Not a fan of being power bottomed.
It's on top of my list.
Oh dear. Oh, that was fun. But anyway, that video, it made me laugh. And that was like a fun, like poking fun at the community. Like it made me giggle. I thought it was top tier content.
And I was pretty surprised because when I actually did put the file on cults, it was kind of a bit of a joke.
Yeah,
you know, I was kind of like, I'm not going to sell any. Then I end up selling like 30 or 40 when I end up doing the stream about it and turned it into a video.
Oh, brilliant!
I think I've sold over 140 now, which is very wild.
Nice.
And I did donate the first 100 to charity. I donated to
good
Gendered
of you, man.
Intelligence. Yeah, because I was like, I don't want to take this money because I did it for a joke.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting to sell more than 10. You needed to on cults. You have to make £10 worth of credit to withdraw it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm only getting 99p after cults cut, so I'm gonna have to sell 11. I can't even sell 10. And then I ended up selling like 20. I was like, oh, okay, this is all right.
Yeah.
And then so after I'd sold a couple, I was like, this is just out of my hands now. I'm just going to donate it all to charity.
Yeah.
But
So I've got an important question. There's people that bought them. Can they use them in tournaments?
You're not allowed to add 3D printed stuff to that.
Well, it doesn't matter because you can't see it anyway.
Someone will notice. It dies and they turn it over like we all do, right?
Yeah.
They'll be like, hang on a minute, that's supposed to have a hole. It's been
You can't even
filled.
do that with most modern 40k tanks nowadays because everything comes with an aerial.
Yeah.
So you can't even turn.
I think
I'm
the
going
Dawn
to turn
does
it.
as well.
Oh, there's the aerial broke. You are
I'm pretty sure the Dawn does as well.
Yeah. Well, you know.
So the technical answer is at Games Workshop event. No, because you can have 3D printed parts at Games Workshop event as long as you design them yourself.
Yeah.
Or they're not
So
commercially
you
available.
could use it.
I could use it.
Yeah.
I could take the power bottom.
Yeah.
No one else can. Only I hold that power.
What a title.
Usually when I have these chats and the conversations going on, I'm thinking about what the title of the video will be as we're going.
I think it might be writing itself at the moment. I think though Games Workshop won't pull that, and I think they won't pull it because I think they think it's such a contentious thing where a lot of the people are pointing at them for making a failure in the kit. I think it will be a case if any. I don't think Games Workshop will pull that. They'll just go, oh, we'll just pretend we haven't seen it and ignore that because I think it will actually just. I think it'd be be like forgetting to do a Space Marine with an arm, wouldn't it? You know what I mean?
For sure, for sure.
So I think they will leave it alone. I reckon.
Yeah,
I think so.
Brilliant.
Well, let's hope.
We got some questions.
We got some Patreon questions.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this one, I feel like there's some context that I'm missing out on.
I love questions like that.
Yeah, I read that and thought the same.
Yeah. So. Apologies in advance.
As if it might just be.
Is that from you or the question? That's scarier.
This first bit's just quite harsh, and then it's a two-part question.
Okay.
First bit, I'll apologise for. Why aren't you as good a YouTuber as Chapter Master Valrak? Do you think he stole your dreadnought at No Retreat?
I knew something like that. So
we can just beep it out and move on.
So when I went to No Retreat, they would SM Battle Reports do their events in Gibraltar, and they were doing No Retreat
so jealous
Legends.
of that.
Yeah,
it's so good. One of the best
really
events I've
wanted
been
to
to.
go to that.
Yeah, they really look after you. But they did No Retreat Legends, which is a charity event. Loads of YouTubers and content creators go out, compete, and then all like the super chats and all the donations go to charity.
Oh, cool.
I can't remember which charity. I believe they were like a lot of them went to mine because I think the winner chose the charity, which is a really cool event, and it was really, really amazing to be a part of. But I took my Iron Hands, Iron Hand Success, my Blood Ravens, and I had 2 Invicta War suits in my list, and it's kind of like it's on a boat hotel, which is cool.
Yeah, it was sort of full cruise liner.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I was so really jealous. I was like, I could do with some sun roundabout now. I can just play 40k in the sun. It looks great.
So you go onto this boat, there's a reception in front of you, you go up the stairs, and it's like kind of like a bar area, but that's where all the tables were. And we kind of like, everyone had just kind of like left their armies on the table and then gone out, etc. On the Saturday night. And then came back the Sunday morning for my next matchup. I was playing Julian from French Wargame, and I deploy my army, and I'm like, something missing here. what's going on? Where's my other Invicta War suit? So I'm like, someone must be playing a trick on me because I like to play tricks on other people. So I was like, everyone, like, who's got my Invicta War suit? And everyone started laughing, and then I was like, no, seriously, who's got my Invicta War suit? So ended up like not being able to find it. We're checking everyone's table. Someone else had a couple of their models moved as well, and it just never turned up. So I was like, well, I'm on 3 wins. I'm like doing well at this tournament. I need an Invicta War suit because I've got a competitive game to play.
Yeah.
So anyway, Pardo, bless him, didn't have any other options, gave me a teacup to use as a war suit.
You didn't even draw on it.
I did actually get gifted a teacup that now says Invicta on it.
Brilliant.
But yeah, so I was using a teacup as an Invicta War suit in a high-level competitive game.
Nice.
And the only thing I can imagine, either Valrak stole it, because he's the most likely suspect. I don't actually think that, but or it's in the sea because someone nicked it drunk and then threw it.
Okay,
So,
yeah.
Someone take it
Hobby's
down.
crew member. Hobby's crew member.
Or maybe-
Pirates.
Someone out there who's got a whole Space Marine army just made up of completely different chapters.
All I can hope is one day they'll split the Invicta in half and they'll give it to my 2 like long lost sons in the future, and they'll come back together and it'll join, and then
Yeah.
we'll have
You've got
untold
2 long
riches.
lost sons. This is
Not yet.
new. You say this sounds like we should be talking about this.
So
Sowing your wild seeds while you're in the Navy. Yeah?
yes.
What is it? Power bottoms and illegitimate children. We chat to Hellstorm Wargaming.
I mean, I've seen an 80s movie called Double Impact. I mean,
Wow.
you could be the dad.
Oh no. Oh no.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, Valrak sucks. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
He came last as well, didn't he, bless him?
It did, yeah. It was quite funny because he got gifted an inflatable WWE belt. We called it the Champions Belt, and basically whoever beat him won the belt. And then he ended up like going around. I think Elliot started with it, and then it went to like Tom, and then it was like basically like it just ended up. Valrak wanted it, gave it away, and then it ended up going back to Valrak because we just gave it him back because of the last place because there was no
And
trophy.
Winters won it, but the good thing about it, he's never mentioned it since.
No. So I lost the game, but yeah, Winters won, and then we ended up doing a game, and I beat him. So. With the same lists as well.
Wow.
We were kind of like the
With
game.
a teacup.
Did you replace it?
No, so I actually had 3 already, and Pardo ended up sending me one with an Iron Hands shoulder pad, because the joke is I play Blood Ravens obviously,
Yeah.
but I run them as Iron Hands, so I'm just a meta chaser. So he sent me an Iron Hands upgrade sprue and an Invicta, bless him, and then so I do have one. I've never painted it, but I've still got 2.
Very good.
It's enough to keep you going.
Yeah.
And then in true Patreon fashion, the next question is just a complete and utter divert. Nutella or peanut butter?
I'm a peanut butter fan myself.
Yeah.
Porridge.
Porridge. Peanut butter on porridge. Oh, interesting.
Nice, tasty.
Excellent.
Good protein breakfast as well.
Aaron says, another great guest, lads. Thank you, Aaron.
Thanks, Aaron.
Question, I'm just going to read this out and I don't understand what it means.
More context is needed.
Yeah. Question, does the Ark of Omen detachment and Space Marine points drop fix 40k, or is it an excuse for GW to sell more boxes than they would normally just for them to tighten their grip for 10th edition?
Nice. Was there no punctuation in that sentence?
No, there wasn't. That was
Excellent.
That was a real struggle.
40k is weird. It's been like 9th edition is like a really, really good game in my opinion. I really, really enjoy it. But like last year, the problem that Games Workshop always had is they write a codex and then they'll write the next one and then they'll write the next one and then they'll start releasing them. And then the design philosophy will change halfway through, and you'll see that because like you get through halfway through an edition, and you probably know more about this than I do. But from outside looking in, it's like halfway through they start changing their minds and doing stuff a little bit differently. And I don't know how their playtesting works, but it just sounds.
I don't think it does.
Well,
Yeah, don't think it does work. Yeah.
from rumours, at the minute, no. But yeah, so like when they release books that have been playtested against a book that wasn't nerfed and has now been nerfed, and then they release an army.
So the Votan was the good example of that, I think, because it was tested against Nids and
Eldar,
and they hadn't been nerfed yet. So then Votan,
the power levels matched.
Well,
kind of. Votan probably were arguably stronger,
yes,
but not by a lot. But Tyranids were much stronger than everything and dominated the meta for about a year.
Was it that long?
And they've been nerfed, and they still dominated, then got nerfed again, and still dominated.
Oh wow!
It's only now that they are like, oh, actually, they're actually not great. They've gone completely the opposite way, where they're really, really hard to play now.
Oh right.
So
how frequently does all that stuff change? Like you said a minute ago, you like I'm a dirty Met chaser, but you play Space Marines, so you generally keep it specific to that, or do you play other armies if they're performing well? Or?
So at events, I've played a couple of other armies in the past, but pretty much now I exclusively play Space Marines.
Yeah.
So like I've been to like Warhammer World events like back in the past, like doubles and stuff, and played other stuff. But like as a competitive gamer in my last like 3-4 years where I've been trying to take it a little bit not seriously, but I'm going to a lot more tournaments now than I was like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I only play Space Marines because I just want to be the Space Marine guy. But yeah, so like the game now drastically changes every 6 months.
Yeah.
Because they release a new mission pack.
Yeah.
But then there are updates every 3 months with the balanced data slate. But then the problem is with that is like that doesn't sound a lot, but then they release a codex every other, well, maybe not for a while, we'll see, but like they release the balanced data slate, then a codex, and then another codex or a mission pack, and then another codex and a balanced data slate. It does feel quite a lot.
Yeah.
I think everyone's kind of hopeful if 10th edition rumours are to be true, that kind of like it settles down for a couple of months and we kind of like enjoy this grace period, because it's one of those weird things. I think the game right now is the most balanced 9th edition has been ever.
Yeah.
And then the other like bit people enjoy for like the best time of the game, because the end of 8th edition was never a thing because of COVID, and I feel like ends of editions or beginning of editions are the best times.
Yeah.
So beginning of 8th edition, everyone had an index and no codexes, and everyone was kind of like playing from one big book.
Yeah.
Everyone had a great time, loved it. And then 8th edition did let's release codex, change the design philosophy, everything gets really powerful, and then everything gets nerfed, and then lockdown happens and everyone got that grace period. But now it's kind of like the chances of them releasing codexes now, to a lot of people, again, I don't know, I'm just guessing, is probably quite slim. So we're probably going to see like a little like teetering off of like, let's keep it level.
Oh, that's quite interesting. Yeah, because I watched I think a bit of your stream last Monday, and you were going through who'd won the tournaments on the weekend.
Yes, and
it was like, Orcs have won. Like it was loads of different armies had come first.
I think it was 13 events and 12 different armies came first, which
amazing.
Is like pretty much never been seen. Because like I don't tend to do it like when a new mission pack drops, so I've not done it in the last couple of weeks. But pretty much during a Monday stream, I'd go through the stats and look out at like what's doing well, what's doing bad, and that's kind of like where all the clickbait comes from. Because when Custodies released and they got a points increase or points reduction a week after the book came out, because they were like, oh yeah, they're not strong enough, and everyone's like, this book's really rubbish. And then they just won every single tournament for like 3 months, and they won like 73% of events in like 2 weeks or something like that.
Oh wow, that's really high, because they try and keep it to 55%.
Yeah, but it wasn't 73% win rate. It was 23% of events, so even better than that.
Oh Christ!
The one that I think is quite interesting is because I watched the machine that is Auspex Tactics from time to time, and he was saying that Genestealer Cult at the moment have been doing better than they should be for the army, but they don't think it's because the army's particularly good. They think there's just a very core of very smart players currently playing Genestealer Cult who've crunched them to perfection. And they go, if they were more popular, they probably wouldn't be doing anywhere near that in tournaments. It's the fact that there's only a small number of very bright players playing them, and I find that's interesting to see the statistics get skewed by people who are just very good at playing an unpopular army.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I'm a narrative player, and I've always played via the story and not really been bothered by the rules as much. So when I like Warcry, for instance, is a
great game.
I'm a big fan of that. If there are any amendments or FAQs, I ain't going to look at them. I ain't going to care, because I'm going to play at home and I'm going to use that book. That's the thing for me, is like when there's so many like you got chapter approved updates, you got FAQs. This is why we need ring binders, right? Ring binder.
Why did they do it in AOS but not 40k?
Well, and it's just like, for me, that's just too much effort. I just want the thing in my hand with all the stuff, even if it's slightly unbalanced, because that one rule says it's 3 inches for every weapon,
Yeah.
as opposed to just melee weapons or whatever. I'm like, I can cope with that. It's not the end of the world. It's not going to be a big win or lose. We're playing for fun. We're going to be drinking beers and eating crisps and stuff. But from a tournament point of view, I've got so much respect for people that just like look at all that information that's out there. Yeah, it is. It's mad, and I don't think my brain's equipped for that. And if I went, like, we decided we're going to do a tournament, I'd be like, Pat, I don't think my brain can do this.
Yeah.
I'm just going to paint lots of stuff and just swamp them with numbers.
Well, we
That's what I'm
might
gonna
make
do.
play like that. If it's not in a book,
Yeah.
we just don't. And it's quite funny because you read things with you listen to Auspex Tactics and you go, oh, this army are really struggling since they lost Armour of Contempt. I've never played with Armour of Contempt in the first place because it's like, if it's not in a book, I
actually just to touch on your point, I actually made a video about that. It was very clickbait. It was me holding one of the chapter approved books, I think it was.
I was going to watch that and then get round to it last night.
And it said, you don't need to buy this, or this isn't for you, or something like that. Really clickbait. And everyone thought I had the book, but it was like a week early, and it's just a very good Photoshop. But
up there with your loot boxes, that was the blind through the video as well.
like, you got to play the game, okay? I always say, again, tangent, but like a lot of people do say I'm quite clickbait, but I'm always a bit like,
I was going to say one of the questions in here talks about clickbait, so
Yeah,
we
just-
may as well jump to it now. Yeah,
if you look at my video and think it's clickbait, just realise it's probably just ironic.
yeah.
So just it's all tongue in cheek. There are people who do like clickbait and then they like have a title and a thumbnail and a video that just does not match.
Yes.
But I always try, if I've got clickbait, it kind of delivers in some sort of.
We
very
call it
abstract
click
way.
truth. That's what we call it here. Click truth.
Because clickbait's such a broad term that's used now.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like anything that catches your eye is clickbait, even though it's just catching your eye.
Yes,
So-
like the game of YouTube, like we've discussed a few times, like your titles and your thumbnails have to be bang on to get people just to click on the video.
Yeah.
Let alone
you see like a thumbnail and you spend like, I presume you make your thumbnails.
I make some of them. There's a guy on Fiverr that does.
Okay, cool.
Does some of those.
That's fine. But like, you'll sit there and you'll have it open on Photoshop on a big monitor. You're like, I'll do this and I'll do this and I'll do this.
Yeah.
And then what all people don't realise is that it gets shrunk down to this big.
Yeah.
And on a collage of everyone else's that are also this big.
Yeah.
So it has to be very in your face. And it
Yeah.
has to be like eye catching.
Yeah.
So sometimes, bright colours, arrows, circles, they all work.
Yeah.
And they work for a reason.
Yeah.
So don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah.
But speaking of game, back to the comment about, again, the good Photoshop. The mission packs are really good because they essentially, Games Workshop again changed design philosophy. Rather than balancing an army with by like, okay, my army's really rubbish, let's reduce all the points, or my army's really good, let's up the points. What they started doing is obviously the balanced data slate to change some core rules or army core rules. But they've also started like, with the fact that you have secondaries now, which are, and you have a lot of like faction specific ones, they started balancing the game by changing the secondaries. So for example, last mission pack, Necrons are really strong because they had 3 secondaries and you could take all 3 that were all really easy to do. It's pretty much choose 3 objectives in no man's land, and there's usually only 3. Hold them for points. If you hold all 3, you get like 5 out of 15.
Yeah.
Or like just exist and you get points. There's like do an action on an objective, and if your objective secured, it passes the end of the turn. They were making their entire army objectives secured, having to hold 3 in no man's land, and then they just walk onto it. I'll do an action here for 4 points. So they've kind of like been balancing the game that way as well. But the problem is with that is when you're a bit more of a casual player, trying to keep up with a new mission pack and new secondaries and changes here and there is difficult. So I always say to people, like me, when I'm talking about stats or the game or like armies, etc., I'm talking about the very current iteration. But you don't have to play that. And it sounds like a bit of a cop-out. I agree. But they sell it as it's a tournament mission pack.
Yeah.
And if you're not a tournament player, why are you buying the tournament mission pack?
Yeah.
Now, I appreciate for casual games, if you're going to like a local store or gaming club, if you're trying to get like a pickup game, then people might want to play the latest rules, the latest missions, which is fine. But I think a lot of it can come down to like managing expectations and being like, I'm coming for a game, I just want to use the rulebook missions, or I just want to use like the old mission pack that no one buys anymore, and I got on eBay for like £2. You know? And it's kind of like one of those, if people like go, I want to play this sort of game, I'm not looking for a tournament practice game, which granted there's probably a lot of people are having practice tournament games on a Thursday, Tuesday nights or whenever they play, but it's all about like kind of like having that discussion with your opponent before the game starts if you're trying to get a pickup game. But like in a group of friends, if you go, oh yeah, we're going to play the mission pack from 4 years ago, like who cares?
See,
Do you know? Are we going to use a balanced data slate?
Yeah.
Nah.
Well, that's it. That people also forget that as well. Don't they? When people moan about moving on editions, there's no rule saying you have to.
No, again,
weird.
it sounds like a cop out, but I don't think it is.
I know people at the moment on Facebook group page and going, we're adoring third edition.
Yeah,
people are just really enjoying third edition. I know the problem being is that they keep making sexy new models and then you can't play them because there's no rules for them in third edition. But I think as well, if you just enjoy the core of a game and you go, that's what I want to play, then, like I say, Games Workshop can't come around, boot your door in and stop you.
Well, look at Ninth Age, which is like the 9th edition fantasy that never existed, but the fan base made it, right? Yeah. But I'm going to say the thing that solidifies my point now is, do you know the boarding actions rules that they have that they're releasing with all the cool terrain and stuff? It says there, because obviously match play, narrative play, open play, and now boarding actions is like a separate version of all of that. Like the balanced data slate, the latest points are all for matched play. So in boarding actions, it specifically says it doesn't use the balanced data slate. It's just that UV codex. So you can kind of solidifies that fact. It's like, oh, just because Games Workshop are releasing all of these updated rules, I don't actually have to pay any attention. I could use my really broken Tyranid codex with no FAQ if I really wanted to. So if you're going to play like friendly games that don't use match play missions, play with the FAQ. But that's like your codex and 9 pieces of paper that you need to print out or whatever. But it's kind of like just like make the game your own. Just because Games Workshop does it one way for tournament players doesn't mean you have to play like that. You can do what you want, basically. See, at the end of the day, just do what you want.
Yeah, I mean,
no one cares.
I don't know if there's something about as hobbyists and as collectors that we feel the need to get the new thing and play the new thing. Because if I look back now, my favourite edition of Warhammer is probably 5th edition, where it's either 5th or 4th, where you build by the units and most of the old art and photography was just like 10 guys, 15 guys. But you didn't have unit champions. You'd have like a champion as a separate thing that you pay and equipped and stuff from the list. And it's very old. It's like, what, mid 90s sort of edition rules. But I really like that rule set. As years have gone on, it's got more complicated. They're more trimmed down. They're more complicated. And I think to myself, it's like, because a new rule system comes out doesn't mean you have to play it, right? Yeah. But we all feel we should. And my group of friends, when we play, it's like, Star Wars Legion has brought out new rules and they've got like a cool thing called Special Operations, a bit like Kill Team, the beta. But I'm like, why can't I just play the existing rules? Because I've got the rule book. All the stuff's now on my phone if I want to get it. But if my phone, I can't get on internet access, I can't play the game. Yeah, because all the rules are on the internet, and I could use my 4G, but I don't want to. I want to use that book that I paid money for.
Well, exactly.
So, and it's really weird. It's like me and Rhodes used to play Black Powder a lot, and then they brought out a new Black Powder, and it's like, I'm building my army up, and we'll play a game when the new rules come out. I was like, why can't we play a game using the existing ones?
Yeah.
I don't understand why we have to wait for this magical book that is probably the same information.
Yeah.
Just repackaged.
It's just I suppose you could say it's strange, but at the same time you can kind of understand it because
the problem is
the new thing and the player base is also an issue as well. So if you're like, well, 9th edition is the most popular 40k game there's probably ever had, but if you try and play 4th or 5th, it wasn't as popular, and people who are still playing it, it's probably very, very slim. But people still go back to 3rd edition and play that, Goblin Green bases, etc. They love it, They love the
Who doesn't love Goblin Green bases?
Exactly.
I mean, retro painting videos always do well on the old algorithm, don't they?
It's just interesting. I just found it's like a psychological thing when it's the new shiny thing. Everyone just has to do it and fear using something that's old. I mean, I've got Space Hulk. If like a new Space Hulk came out, should I stop using that Space Hulk?
Yeah.
And only play the new one?
I'm afraid that's capitalism.
Yeah.
I've fallen for it. Like
You are the bait.
So, another one from one of us Potters says, so I need to preface this by saying, you're Hellstorm Wargaming, and there's a channel called Hellstorm Gaming. And it says, what do you think of Hellstorm Gaming and how he potentially has 22 of your subscribers? DW wouldn't let this copyright abuse slide. Lots of love, Gaz. Kiss.
I feel conned. I've been robbed, clearly. But it's quite funny because people call me Hellstorm Gaming. They always miss
I think, Peachy, you did earlier.
I did. I think I did.
You did. Yeah. I think I did. I don't pull people up on it anymore.
You should have done. You should have slapped me.
Wargaming. It's funny.
Sorry, everyone.
Channel names really pigeonhole you, don't they, a little bit? Because I'm Hellstorm Wargaming, so I can't really do anything else other than Wargaming. I've kind of shoehorn myself a little bit. Because I feel like I'm a bit more of a like variety streamer now. I do a little bit of everything rather than being like, exclusively. When I started, I did battle report.
Well, that's us as well. You know, we've got painting in the title, and we do a show every week where we don't talk.
Someone commented about that. I go, "Where's the painting?"
I think I might have applause. It's generally every. I think I put it's generally every Thursday or Friday.
Yeah. We're working on it.
Yeah, it's funny. So I've always considered changing it just to Hellstorm, because either people call me just Hellstorm or they call me Hellstorm Gaming. Sometimes they'll call me Wargaming, but I go by Hellstorm Mikey most places now.
Yes,
anyway, so.
yeah, it's like your Twitter handle, isn't it?
Yeah, but I always think there's no point in a big rebranding if you're going to do something, unless you're going to do something crazy.
So speaking from another content creator who's pigeonholed himself, Pete the Wargamer asks,
"Oh, what a legend!"
And we're going to have him on in a couple of weeks.
Excellent.
Very excited.
Yeah, it's coming on.
Nice.
You can choose one 40k faction to be completely overhauled, both rules and miniatures, but another faction must be completely deleted from existence.
Ooh. Oh my lord!
Which ones do you choose?
Oh god!
It's a good question, that.
Oh god!
Delete Votan, the new, no one cares.
Well, I've always hated Tau, so that was easy.
We'll get on well.
Yeah, the only Tau model I've ever wanted to paint is actually the new Farsight. Because it's super Gundam anime style.
Yeah, with like the blossom trees on the base and stuff.
They leaned right into that Japanese thing, didn't they?
Yeah, so that's not out yet. So if we delete the faction, that'll still come out, right?
Yeah, why not?
So that's sorted. What would I like overhauled? I'd love to. Well, I don't know, because I love a bit of something about every army is really cool. Everything has its own like little bit of character. That's a really cop out answer. I think Orcs need a big overhaul. Yeah, because they just released just like drag cars, didn't they? You know, in the last 5-10 years, a couple of characters.
That was from a board game though that they made, and then they just like, we should reuse these somewhere else.
I mean, Gorkamorka.
No, it was. I think they're looking at doing
Gorkamorka.
The racing game, they shoot each other. Yeah, but it was trying to again capture that nostalgia of Gorkamorka.
It was trying to do Gorkamorka and what's Dark Future. But with orcs, trying to be a bit of both of those, but with larger vehicles.
Yeah,
and a small table.
Yes, small board gang. You know how it is. But yeah, so like I think if they just redid orcs completely and just like proper updated them properly, because the Orc Boys, even though they've released that new like snap fit type kit, which is nice, but they're still selling the old ones as well because they come with all the options.
Yeah, because the ones that are in the combat patrol are it's like shooters and stabbies.
It's like a mix into it.
And you can't. Choppers. That's the word.
That's one. Stickers.
Cool. What are your expectations, hopes, and fears for 10th edition?
Hopes and fears. Well, my biggest fear is I'm a tournament organizer, and I'm expanding to a large event at the end of the year.
I was looking at that.
Yeah, and I'm really excited for it, but I'm manufacturing all the terrain myself. I have a 3D printing room in my house. So I've got like 5 3D printers wearing away all day, every day. Yeah. I'm just really hoping they don't change terrain too drastically, because that is going to be very expensive. A very expensive and stressful couple of months. Yeah. Because I feel like I'm nearly done for October, so I've got quite a while to paint it all.
What kind of changes would it be then? So obviously, someone that's plays games for fun. I'm not saying you don't play games, because you clearly have fun doing what you do.
Have a great time.
But I don't worry about like how the terrain interacts. It's just there's a cool narrative hook for me to play the game.
Sure.
How would the terrain? What happens with it now that could change? And what am I trying to say?
Yeah, I understand the question, even though you're not saying it.
What would be a drastic change?
Yeah, exactly. So what you've done now, what does that look like in comparison to what would the change be, and how would that affect it? Because to me, a hill's a hill, right?
Yeah.
So is it the size of it? Is it?
It's the thing is with terrain in a tournament at the minute is that it's all about like it's like the function of the table is very important for like not getting alpha striked. So by that I mean like. You don't want to be able to put your army down on a board and have nothing in your deployment zone, and your opponent just rolls all their tanks up. Like I played an army this weekend, which was a Baneblade, 3 Rogal Dawns, and 3 Leman Russers. That was the entire army, and Lord Solar, the Horseman.
Oh yeah,
exactly. And imagine if you played against that. So that was 2,000 points, so like a standard 40k game, and then you deploy your army of Space Marines and Dreadnoughts, etc. That doesn't move very fast and has some guns but not great. But there's like nothing in the middle. It's just kind of like some trees and a hill. And then they go first, and they just absolutely obliterate your entire army.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, my turn 1, I've got a captain left. I've got some scouts over there or whatever, you know. And that'd be awful, right? So the whole point of terrain is like, especially now, it's like kind of, there's a lot of discussions, we'll call it, on Twitter, of people complaining about the L-shaped building, which is like the tournament like standard of terrain.
Yeah.
But the whole point of like those types of like terrain shapes is the fact that I might have one in my deployment zone, and there might be like a couple in the middle, and they'll have one in theirs. And the whole point of it is it creates like a safe space for you to like deploy your army. And now your opponent will be able to get angles, and they'll be able to like, you know, drive a Baneblade up the side of the board and see down. Okay, well, that's not very good, because they'll do the same thing. So we'll put like a piece of terrain here, for example, and then same on the other side. And then that's why you see like a lot of type of like mirrored terrain, because having odd terrain, I roll off, I roll a 6, I choose the best side, you get the worst one, and the same thing happens. So the whole function of terrain in like a tournament format is to protect you, to actually create a game, because you don't want someone to come down and just obliterate you.
Yeah, got you.
So the problem is like the terrain at the minute is, a lot of it's quite abstract, because obviously the obscuring keyword is a thing. So for everyone who doesn't know what that is, but it's like basically if a building's 5 inches high, then if you don't have too many wounds, so Imperial Knights don't benefit from it, but essentially you block the windows and it's infinitely high, so you actually can't see through it. And what that does is like, so you have all of this terrain that's like certain heights, etc., that you can hide behind, or you have woods, which creates like a -1 to hit because it's dense.
Yeah.
So you have like all of these keywords that kind of like make terrain function better than probably should do, because it's kind of like, I think it might be a bit of a bandage for Games Workshop. Makes pretty terrain with holes and windows and blasts and stuff. But then as soon as you put it on the board, and it's like, oh yeah, I can, through these 5 buildings, I can see through your windows and see your tank.
Yeah.
Again, the same problem.
Yeah.
So my biggest fear is they just nuke what they've done with the terrain and start again. Because I'll play at Warhammer World this weekend, and they're doing what the US Open are doing, where they have like perspex for the terrain. I don't know if you've seen that.
No.
So again, I'll put like pictures on Twitter. But what they essentially have is like, they have like a piece of 12 by 12 inch square piece of perspex, and they have buildings on it.
Right.
And all of that counts as a building. So what you essentially get, again obscuring, you have this big brick that you can't see through.
Yeah. Interesting.
Which is a kind of like, again, another bandage to be like, we make holes in our window, in our building, so we need to make it so it functions. So you've got like these big bricks of terrain, but then as soon as you're touching the perspex, then it kind of goes to like true line of sight. So it's like, if there's a window, you can actually see through it, whereas if you're not touching it, you can't.
Yeah.
It's always been my biggest bugbear through all the time of playing 40k is scenery.
Yeah. Because it looks pretty, but it's like you've got to balance that prettiness to make it look cool, to make a board look like a board.
At one point in time, if you can see one guy, you can see the squad.
Yeah.
You go,
I suppose on like skirmish of like Necromunda, you want that minutiae of like, no matter where you are, you'll be able to like trace your sniper.
Yeah.
And I can see through those 3 windows and take a pot shot. It's like full cover. So I'm at -1, but I've got this scope, I can do this, I've got these benefits and minuses. Shot in a million, got him. That feels good, right, in a game. Yeah. For like 40k, that's going to slow the game down so much, right? And it's just too much information, I guess. Yeah,
it's kind of like, if you think about that, it's kind of like, I've got one guy with a sniper shooting one other guy. Whereas you 40k, you've got a Titan that's got 2 guns, rocket pod, heavy stubbers to bear, and it walks forward and just shoots 7 different targets and just deletes them all.
Yeah.
So like the amount of firepower that is available from like one single unit that can just see everything is like really hard to manage. So that's why terrain now, with all these extra keywords that they've added, is really interesting.
Yeah.
And it makes it so you can have like these fair boards that also look quite cool.
Yeah. I've seen at LVO that they have that mirrored thing when I used to have a little wander around the
so like a couple of years ago they used mirrored, now they use player placed, where you have like the same type of terrain, because like a lot of tournaments they have like a standard setup. So it's like, okay, like for my events I actually run 5 different types of tables. So like table 1 to 5 is all different terrain types, but they all are from like different tournaments. So I like run from like the WTC, the Team Championships, the LGT. I've got one from Prague, from Game Mat, and then I've got like the Perspex from GW, and then I've got like my own version of player placed.
Yeah.
Because a lot of tournaments, the problem is with them, in my opinion, is there's no personality, because it's like, okay, table 1, you play this mission and this terrain, and you go to table 2 and it's the same mission, same terrain, etc, etc, etc. So I like to use a mix, but like having these like layouts for each mission, again, because the deployment zone is in this area, and you're going to have these buildings in the middle, and you have a building in your deployment zone, and then you play a different mission, you rearrange it all again. Makes it fair. But then like the US have they've been trying out this player place where you have a side and the players deploy their army in certain ways, but for the terrain that they can actually put in their deployment zone.
Okay.
So you actually see like really weird meta shifts, and by meta I mean like the most competitive armies, or the armies that are doing the best in one area, or in one mission format. So like in the US, you see combat armies do really well because they use a lot of player placed terrain where they can put a building in the perfect place where they can stage a combat army. And by that I mean they can go, turn 1 I'm safe, I'm in my building.
Yeah.
I'll move out into this building, I'm still safe. Turn 3, charge, delete. Which is quite interesting because again you've kind of got like, well, like a sub game of like, oh, I'm gonna put my terrain piece there so they can put theirs there, I'm gonna jump over and kill everything. Whereas some tournaments it's all preset, so you kind of like, well, I don't have that on this mission, so I can't take this type of army. And then you see like really weird different metas, or like again combat armies in the US do really well, sometimes they don't do so well here because a lot of the boards that a lot of big tournaments use favour shooting armies. So
interesting.
I realise that's a very long answer.
I don't think players in tournaments should be allowed to set scenery.
No, it's strange.
Because
it's definitely strange.
You know, and I know it's extraordinarily abstract, but you know, it's not like when I spent any time in the military. Went, you know, if we could just shove that building 7 foot that way, we'd be able to see that bridge.
Oh, I don't know. They used to dig big holes to do it. They call it trench warfare. They just dig their own, you know.
Yeah, but
is that not a real life version of player place terrain?
You can't move a block of flats out the way to be able to guard a bridge. It's, you know. I think personally, I always think the rules for buildings should be extraordinarily basic, and I think where the rules for how a weapon interacts with scenery should be embedded into the weapon, not bedded into the scenery. A prime example: a guy with a sniper rifle shooting at hopefully someone's head in a window.
Yeah, makes sense.
Or is one thing, but then you're getting on the blower and tell a mortar platoon to hit that building. They're going to do a significant different level of damage, which is going to affect more people in it than the sniper. But the problem being is they're going, well, what the sniper can do in 40k and what the Titan does in 40k, you've got to have this, it's homogenized sort of rule system.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think you go, if it's the vehicle can obliterate the building in the point of getting to the men inside, then I think it should be baked. I know it becomes a problem is that you're going, well, that building was 4 floors high and now the Titans hit it. We've got to take 2 floors off that. I get there's a problem. It's not perfect, but I do think it should be baked into the gun, not baked into the scenery, personally.
I think the problem then is you kind of go too far the other way, where you've kind of said, like, terrain's really confusing because it has, I can see you, but there's an imaginary cloud of smoke that I can't see, you know, where you're adding complexity to the army then. So then trying to work out, you've got 25 different guns in your army.
Yeah.
How many of them can shoot through buildings? How many can take a floor off?
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of like another complexity.
Well, like I say, I think, you know, I think I would go, right, well, you know, not many buildings in 40k generally have a roof anyway. You know, so I generally would go, the sniper's going to struggle, you know, the sniper firing into there. -1 to hit because of the scenery or whatever, but then if the Imperial Knight's fighting into it, maybe not -1 for scenery because his gun wouldn't struggle with the bricks and mortar in the same way as the sniper would, you know. And I think personally, and yet you go, it becomes a complexity of guns. But I also think it didn't take long for us to go. You know, we all understand that plasmas go bang on a 1 if you supercharge them. We know plasmas used to just go bang on a 1. Anyway, and you just learn to get used to it. But I think it should be personally, in my opinion, should be bedded into the gun, not bedded into the scenery.
Because again, it creates its own problems. Like we've spoken about, like the Desolation Squad, they have indirect fire, which is cool. So they don't need line of sight with their little tiny rockets to see something to actually, to shoot it. And when they're doing that in match play now, you reduce the ballistic skill because you can't see, and you give the opponent an extra cover save because you're going through all these buildings. But then if you shoot over woods, even though you imagine a mortar or something similar goes up and over,
it's just a parabolic fire. It goes over the thing.
So you have a tree this big in the middle of the board, and my mortars are going over here. But if my line of firing crosses over that wood, I still suffer the problem with the wood because it creates a -1 to hit.
Yeah.
So even though this wood is in the middle, but I'm firing over it, I still like suffer the detriment for shooting over it. Which again, that's a problem because a mortar probably should ignore that, right?
Yeah, I think where they're going with that is the idea that the person who is, if we go mildly real world for a moment, is having to try and give the order to his mortar team over where they're firing. If he's struggling because there's woods in front of him, he's having to sort of put a wet finger in the air and sort of go, how far do I think that is? What do I reckon? So I sort of get it, but I also think as well, I see the other side of that. If it's firing over the top of it, then it should, you're going, well...
Should you...
I think the idea it's meant to become that bit of the rule, for me, is that comes down to the person not being able to give the command order to place them mortars, because it's a and in real world now you wouldn't be a problem because a drone would just tell you how far you are, or a reconnaissance platoon would already be there and they would have fed it back to mortar platoon. And that's the problem why 40k becomes extraordinarily abstract, is because you have a game where no one is allowed to realistically talk to each other. The closest you got was Markalites with Tau.
Yeah.
But, no one else does it, even though realistically, if you had a team of Imperial Guard over there and then the mortars were back here, you wouldn't suffer that -1 because the guy over there would go, yeah, that's about 17.
I'm sure there used to be a rule.
There is some rules currently because, for example, if you have indirect fire, I think there's a stratagem for Space Marines to be like, if a land speeder's nearby and he can see them, he can tell him and you get +1 to hit instead.
But I think, and that's great, but I think if everybody's got a Mark 1 eyeball, everybody should be, some should be going, I can't, give me a,
can we ignore that tree, please?
Yeah.
But again, we're playing a silly game.
Or realistically, or the other option is you go, tank, get rid of that bit of forest for me, either by driving through it or killing it.
Yeah,
and then I've got a hole that I can see through, and then I can do this.
So I've heard from multiple sources that once you've been in the armed forces, you can't watch action films because grenades explode into a fiery thing. Which literally I like. Yeah.
But
is it the same for wargaming now? Because obviously the rules are the rules, and terrain has to exist and all that sort of stuff. But then I guess could you be like, well, if it was real, that tank could just drive through those trees.
Don't get me wrong, I understand it has to be abstract. I get it because if you started to try to make it that reflected, albeit my outdated understanding of warfare, drones weren't really a thing.
Yeah.
When I was in, nowadays guys go, we can't see over there, and someone literally does a running javelin throw, and there's a drone in the air, and then someone sits down behind the back of a Land Rover with an Xbox controller, and then 10 minutes later comes back and go, yeah, you're all right with them mortars, off you go. So I understand it's abstract, but I think sometimes it gets diluted to the point where you're going, just standard understanding of human, even orcs would be able to go, you're that far away, you know what I mean? It becomes so...
They'd be licking the finger and checking
they literally would be licking their finger
for the best, and it'll definitely
but I think it just becomes, and especially, I'll tell you another one you would think of, is you think of, everyone talks about Tyranids as a hive mind. If there's an indirect fire for anything Tyranid based, the idea is that whole army of Tyranids should all, if you should think of them as like ants, every Tyranid in that army should know the same piece of information as everybody else at exactly the same thing, because they constantly go on and going, they're a hive mind, they're a hive mind, they're a hive mind, but you go, there's Tyranids over there, don't know what the Tyranids over there can know.
That's synapse creatures, Jeff.
Yeah, I know.
You take them out, mate. Yeah, you confuse,
but there should be that thing of it being and I do think it is, yeah, you're right. If you start trying to apply, and I get it, you start trying to apply real world. We had this with pouches.
Don't talk about pouches.
Well, I was going to say, in that context, are you the player, not the hive mind?
Well, yeah, you are.
Watching from above.
But you are the hive mind, but you still then get penalised for the fact that you can't shoot over that wood. Because your Hormigans over there should be telling the big thing or going, you're that far away.
But they know them there, but there's clouds and stuff in the way, so they can't quite see.
We go with my favourite, the fog of war.
The fog of war.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's a great get out course.
Really dark, mate.
I never understood why anybody bothers having a reconnaissance platoon, because you could just go, don't bother sending them guys, mate, the fog of war will screw all that out.
Have you ever watched Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
On occasion.
If any of you guys watch it, yeah. So there's a scene where Captain Holt gets really, really angry at a dentist and how doctors have co-opted the word doctor, and then it just kind of does a smash cut and he's like, oh, that seemed to be a bit of a trigger for me. I feel like we've just done that.
I'm sorry.
No, don't apologise.
No.
I just know how to push your buttons now.
It's recorded. Everyone does.
Yeah, exactly.
My answer is my answer to that, and I know it sounds awful because we are predominantly a 40k channel, is
Are we?
well, it's what we talk about. It's what we talk about more than it, isn't it?
Lord of the Rings and Necromunda quite a bit, to be fair.
You know, the get out of clause for that is if you want to play 40k in a way that makes more sense, is you play 40k but with Star Grunt rules, and that's the answer to that. Yeah, it's a tiny little game, Star Grunt. You can still buy
Shout
the
out
book,
to them.
but they play with like a really quite. They're clever one with them, which I also think is we were talking about this with James the other week when we were saying that is now the D6 too restrictive, and it was they were talking about that in your army you draw from a hat how elite your troops are.
Okay.
And not only do you draw how elite your troops are, you draw how elite their commander is. So you can have a really crack team of guys whose officer has been killed and are now being led by a guy who's not great. Or you can have a great leader and a really average team. But they were saying is that depends on how elite or how low level your troops are. When it comes to firing, the number of faces on their dice is different.
Oh, interesting.
So if you've got to roll something like a 5, but you're rolling a D20, your likelihood of getting a 5 is going to become much more difficult. But the more elite you are, your dice comes down in face sizes, which I think as a rule, I think is really clever.
Yeah, there's quite a few games that are doing that, because as you mentioned Star Wars Legion, they have different dice for different guns and saves, etc.
Yeah,
which I think is really clever.
Yeah, I think that's cool. But there's also, is it Malifaux?
Malifaux,
instead of rolling dice, they draw from a deck of like 52 cards, like just normal playing cards, and then depending on what they draw, that's like kind of like the result.
The old Decipher's old Star Wars card game used to just have a number in the top right corner that was literally there that you used it as a dice roll effectively.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think there would be
the D6, don't they? So
yeah, I don't think there would be a drastic change, because that would annoy a lot of tournament players, right? If it was like, if you build a list and then it's like, oh, they're all numpties and they don't roll very well, you'd feel a bit cheated.
Players. Just rolling for 5s and hoping for the best.
Yeah. The one that was great was that if you were firing a sniper, your sniper wasn't on the table. You didn't effectively have a model for it. You just had 3 numbers.
Okay.
And you could set them out X amount of distance apart, and your opponent would have to go, I'm going to shoot at number 3, and assume that that's where the sniper was, and you go, no, I've written it down, the sniper was here. And then in the next turn, you could change the number to where the sniper was again. But if your opponent had no model, a fictitious drone up, you couldn't have 1, 2, and 3 down. You could just have 1 and 2.
Interesting, yeah.
And
again, another game that does that is Infinity, because they just put
I used to play Infinity years ago.
Down,
I used to play Infinity right back at the beginning.
So they put like tokens down, and then as soon as you see the token, then it reveals what it is, for example.
Yeah, they used to do one with Japanese. In the Japanese army, they'd be ninjas.
Yeah.
And they wore like really, really good camouflage. You had to get really close to one before it forced a reveal. So at the start of the game, which was great of having a mobile phone camera, was you put the ninja down where he was, photographed him, your opponent turned their back, and then you took the miniature off.
Oh, right.
And then when you wandered by and you go, ha ha, die, you're dead, sword and back, and you go, oh, and you go, oh yeah, all right, fair. That's really nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think is quite cool.
That's cool.
I like that extra level of interaction. I think it's quite cool.
Yeah. It's good. It's good for skirmish games. Though. The problem is with like Warhammer 40k.
Oh yeah.
It's just a big army game that people just if you have so much.
And that's what I mean. That's why I understand it's how abstract it has to be, because some, if you depends how you play guards. I used to play guard back in the day, and I was like shoving like 90 men around. Not including tanks. And I understand a level of abstract is required. So by that, everything I've said for the last 10 minutes, ignore it.
I didn't say that, you did.
Moving on.
Yeah. Positive thing for 10th edition. Positive thing for 10th edition. I hope they reduce, fix people's woes of stratagems and command points.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest complaint, I think. And
do you think there's too many?
I think there's probably quite a lot that are just rubbish that you don't need.
As a Death Guard player, there is about 2 pages of them I just don't even bother looking at. I use probably about 5.
So like the list I use this weekend, I spend all my command points before the game starts on upgrades. So I start with 0.
Oh right, wow.
But you gain one every turn now anyway. And there's like 3 that I use that are good. But you kind of have to either build your list for them. And people get overwhelmed by them, but I feel like if you just go, right, my list can do this, that stratagem is really good, so I'll put that unit in that actually interacts with it. And I've got like Magic the Gathering cards that I've customized with all the text on.
Nice.
So I can like go, here you go. And it's the updated version as well. So I'm like, so I don't have to like, oh, it's been FAQ'd this.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you just like, I like a big advocate. I made a video about making cheat sheets for your army. So I like on literally just a spreadsheet, write my army, write my warlord trait, what it does in shorthand. Oh yeah, this in the command phase, this unit can choose a unit within 9, and now it can reroll all hit rolls. It's just like command phase, 9-inch, reroll hit rolls.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sometimes there's too much text, I think.
Yeah, which to make it clear, which is fine, but when there's like rules that like transfer a lot throughout the game, there's like a warlord trait in 40k for Drakari, which is called competitive edge, and basically when they attack, it's like on a succubus, for example, they make some attacks, and I don't know how many attacks they get, but if anything doesn't wound, then they get to roll that extra amount. So if they have 5 attacks and 2 don't wound, they roll 2 more.
No, okay.
And then Custodies have that. I can't remember what it's called. Orcs have that. Can't remember what it's called. But everyone just calls it competitive edge.
Yeah.
Because they know what it means. But that's kind of like a cheat sheet in itself, you know. But just like taking the stratagems and stuff like that, you can actually interact with. Write those down. You don't need to know the other 30 or 50 or whatever you've got, you know. Because I've got like Space Marines have a codex which has got like 30, and then they have a supplement which has another 20 or whatever. Again, I only use 3.
It's an interesting thing though, because I mean, I get that with Legion, and from like playing Necromunda, you get like your gang tactics, you get like obviously stratagems. Someone obviously wrote them for a reason.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? But no one uses them. Why? And why? So like I've got, you know, when you get like, let's say I bought like some Mandos for Star Wars Legion, you get a load of extra cards that are for that unit, like upgrades to that unit, and then you just get your generic ones, like uplink and recon and camo cloaks and grappling hooks, and like some of them are just like, I'll use that's cool because I want to, you know, there's a lot of buildings in this. This one's really useful for this game we're going to play, which is going to be in the streets of Coruscant. That makes sense. So grappling hooks. This one I've never used it up to this point ever, and I don't know when I'm ever going to use it. Why does it exist? Someone obviously thought that this rule would make sense, commissioned art for it, and then made it into a card. So why does it exist when no one uses it?
Yeah, it's strange.
And I've always wondered that, like, you know, what was in their head, what was the thought process, and like you obviously experienced this more with like the tournament scene. Like, there's just so many stratagems that just don't get used. Yeah,
like I mentioned earlier with the land speeder. If you have a whirlwind and a land speeder, I'm pretty sure this is right. I might be making it up. I can't quite remember because it never gets used. But it's like if you have a whirlwind that can't see a unit, but the land speeder that is within range of whatever can see this unit, then you get +1 to hit, and that's a command point. And it's like, so I need to take these 2 units and to be in a very specific position to use it.
Okay.
Make the land speeder cost more and bake it into its rules.
Exactly, and that's what change of design philosophy. I'm using the very first 9th edition codex, whereas if you look at the World Eaters codex, they have 8 stratagems. Unless you're playing Disciples of the Red Angel, then they have another 8 to play with. But they're like the 8-bound and the Khorne Berserkers, etc. all have lots of special rules on their data sheet, which is kind of what they used to do. And then they ripped them out, made them into stratagems, and now they've kind of gone the other way again and realised maybe we went a bit too far.
Interesting.
Well, that whirlwind thing, just thinking about it, like,
I really should check that before I start quoting that.
But even then, it's like, let's say that was the rule. It has to be this particular land speeder and that particular whirlwind. Why can't it just be any squad that can see that thing? Because they've all got headsets. They all communicate.
Well, just back to what I was...
Don't get him started again.
I'll have an obnob, I won't talk.
But there you go. Land speeder, forwards observer, forwards observer, 8 points more. He's in the land speeder or he's not. Charge 8 points, -1 to hit, or you don't pay the price for indirect fire over a forest, whatever you want to call it. Dense is the dense rule is dropped if you've got someone who can see.
I wish I could get rid of that for me.
You could pay.
Plagued me my whole life with dense rule. That's how I ended up in the army in the first place.
It's funny, and again, I think they've kind of like worked out that like people are quite annoyed with it and get a bit disheartened with it, and they've started to make changes with it. So I just hope they deal with it, but don't go too far, because I think command points as a system is really, really fun. It's okay. It's another resource you've got to manage and plan for.
Yeah.
No, I've always, when I've seen people using it, it makes sense and it's cool. It's like, oh yeah, I've got a limited resource of cool stuff I can do extra, which makes a lot of sense. But yeah, if there's just rules there that no one uses, get rid.
Yeah.
Or make them better.
Yeah, again, put it on the data sheet if it's crap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
cool. So I think we might have time just for one or two more questions.
Sure.
So first one. Now GW has finally listened to you about recycling the sprues. Winky face. They put the emoji in there.
Excellent.
If you got inviters to the table to talk to them directly, what would be your number one priority to get sorted next?
Oh, like in what regard? I guess
They don't specify.
Oh, okay.
So I guess
on the bottom of that tank, because you're making a killing on that at the moment.
I would chuck in something, and that is if you're bringing, because I've seen that video where you talk about recycling. If you're bringing sprues into those stores, let's say every store eventually has it, that's like a specific bin that Terra, is it called Terra?
Yeah, TerraCycle.
TerraCycle.
Again, perfect name for a 40k recycling company.
Yeah, very good, very good.
You should be rewarded.
I agree.
Because we used to do the skulls thing back in the day. Sorry, Liz, she hates when I says back in the day.
I have 2 silver skull stickers still.
Yeah.
Like on ready to go.
But that would be such an incentive to keep hold of your sprues, to bring them in, because everyone's getting a reward from it. Because that sprue doesn't really, at the end of the day, it's pennies to the business. But it means they can make more product. Because most of the bases, so this is something that early days I didn't realise was, they used to use white plastic. It was like a white dye, and it looked really shapeless, which is why they put black in, so you can see the definition. Like if you remember the old metal figures, they used to put boot polish or wash over the top of metal figures so you can see all the definition.
Yeah, I remember that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Especially in the old pictures.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So the old plastics originally used to be like white. It was almost translucent to a certain degree, so you couldn't see any definition.
Yeah.
So that's why they ended up putting black in there to make it grey, so you could see like all the different angles and stuff. But at the time when they were recycling sprues, they couldn't just recycle the grey because it would change in colour too much.
Yeah.
So they used to just bung a load of black in. So most of the recycled sprues that went back, let's say like a load of Marines just got recycled, you'd be standing on dead Marines down the line because they get turned into bases. Whereas when we're in the studios, they used to have recycling bins, and you could put coloured ones in there. You could put any kind of, not just. I think for a time it just wasn't paint on the model on any of the sprues. There was paint on the sprues. Or if you undercoat the sprues, you couldn't recycle those. So I know that it goes back to the business. It doesn't really cost them that much from that point of view.
Yeah.
But for us, we spent a lot of money on that.
Yeah, and
I
why should I bother? You know,
if I'm taking that trip down and weighing myself down from a charity shop, I take stuff to the charity shop because it's for charity. They're gonna that money's gonna be used for good.
Yeah.
Whereas this money's gonna be used for not communism, capitalism. Jesus,
our parks.
And there's your title.
But yeah, so it's like, it doesn't cost them anything that you taking all this.
Yeah, exactly.
So you should get reward for it.
I reckon there probably is like some sort of monetary value per ton, probably.
Oh, yeah,
if they're selling it to this company to go turn it into something, someone's benefiting somewhere. They're not you can't do everything for free.
It's going back to the business, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. So
workshop parks.
Yeah, our parks.
I want to ride the Saurus Warrior. Woo!
Oh mate, that'd be awful, but brilliant at the same time. But yeah, they should be some sort of rewards program, I think. Because again, like, why bother? Like, if you don't, like, for me, I don't tend to go into a workshop store too much because I go to like local stores or I order it online, like most of us do.
Yeah.
And it's always been that thing that's like people going into the workshop stores are kind of like they'll learn to play, buy their stuff, and then go. So like, why should I make the trip to go and deliver some stuff? Because I want to recycle. That's great.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, that don't care, sadly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a problem. That's a culture problem. But they don't. Why they'll chuck it in the bin?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then it gets taken away. They don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
Whereas, it should be recycled. That'd be really good if everyone did it. And then overwhelm Games Workshop with all of these old sprues that are going to go ship, and then there'll be parks everywhere. We'll all have one. But yeah, it's just a bit of a funny one. Yeah, I think there should be some sort of reward system. I don't know how much, because then you might create a bit of a black market for old sprues, which you don't want. So,
yeah. That's true. I'm just thinking now we should have workshop theme parks. I'm just thinking of all the different rides you can have. The Whirlwind sounds like it should be fun. We should have a Whirlwind. The Death Roller.
The Death Roller.
The Death Roller.
And then the teacups for the Invictus, right?
Love it.
First priority, I've got no idea. I don't want that job.
Yeah, that's a perfect
fair answer.
Yeah, perfect.
There's a lot they could do. There's a lot of this. Again, the keyboard warriors. Shout out to you guys. Love you all. I'm sure they probably all have better ideas than I do. But yeah, they're doing a lot of good stuff. You know, sometimes it feels a bit like they've stabbed twisted and then just like give you an ice cream to like make it feel better.
Well, when they start taking microplastics out of the basing kits, then that'll be great.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately, we got rid of sand, which is on the beach.
Well, there is a shortage of sand, I think, just in general for like construction and all that stuff.
Especially here, it's all covered in crap now, isn't it?
Yeah,
Quite literally.
But yeah, I mean, I think Valhalla and Blizzard has microplastics, and I think they all do, to be fair. So
yeah.
Yeah, it's a big problem because it comes down to like not laziness, but like if you need an incentive, it's kind of the same with like 3D printing because that generates so much waste, and it's kind of like it's resin and it's like a chemical reaction you can't really recycle it right now.
You get all that frame and stuff around.
Yeah, exactly, and then so like I don't know, a lot of that does go to landfill. I've started using for basing, so I like chop off the supports and try and make it look like industrial stuff.
Yeah.
Which is quite cool.
They look like cool scaffolds for
exactly.
Titanicus.
Yeah.
So like you can just turn them into ruined cities.
Yeah, so I've started like laying them in, putting some cork around it and then painting it silver, and it just adds a little bit of something, you know. But then it's the same with like because you use alcohol to wash the prints, but you can also get water washable resin, but then you've got all this water that you can't deal with that people are just pouring down the sinks, which is then going into the sea, and you've got like uncured resin just going straight into the sea, which is terrible for your drains, but it's also terrible for the environment. So but it just comes down to if there's no option that's really easy and they're not getting rewarded for it, why bother doing anything else? Out of sight, out of mind, isn't it?
So. That's true. Very true.
Like I think there's a big push to make electric cars at the moment because the EU are saying 2030 there's going to be no new like fossil fuel powered cars allowed to be sold or something like that, and then that's cool. That's a good enough reason to then
I want an electric motorcycle.
Push on push on the technology and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, it'd be so good. And especially if you could just like have a little cycle just to, you know, you run out
pump it up.
I could just imagine you on like a massive sport bike with dinky little pedals in it.
Just charging it, all right.
But I don't think I'm like a big environmentalist. I'm not like like an activist or anything like that, but I feel like
just a level of common sense, isn't it?
Just common sense, and like you know, I've got a bit of a platform. People do sometimes listen to what I've got to say. Hopefully, and if you're still watching,
you are.
But yeah, it's just if you can do your little bit, better than nothing.
Yeah,
that's my kind of like view.
No, agreed.
Absolutely, yeah. So this last question, the first bit was we kind of talked about earlier, and I said, someone asked how was your content changed, and with COVID and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, just to touch on that, I really enjoy battle reports. I really do I enjoy making them, but the problem is you'll spend a 3-hour game filming for 8 hours. Yeah, as I'm sure you guys can imagine when you're painting.
Well, we've been doing some bat reports.
I've been putting it off for as long as possible because I know how much effort goes into it, and then I've got it. I'm editing it right now, and I'm like, this isn't as good as I want it to be.
Well, we've got high standards.
From like a filming point of view.
And then you'll spend 18 or more hours editing a video. Spend another 2-3 hours on a thumbnail. You'll finally put it out, and then it'll flop. And that's pretty much what I
that's going to happen.
No pressure. Because I think for me anyway, there's so many people and so many other channels that are doing battle reports at such high standard that it's such a high like bar to hit. And I feel like I can hit it, but for the effort to do it, to then go like for a good example, I was really excited to do a Warcry campaign, like with the new Rotten Ruin box set, the first one they did with the Nurgle guys and
they're called the Horns of Hashut.
That's the ones. And I made the first one, and I like had all the cards. I like because they didn't have. I couldn't get any digital versions of the cards, so I made them all in Photoshop, which took me a few hours. And then I like me and Louis played the game. I had Tom filming with me, so we were like sat at a table, multiple cameras, and then an extra camera to get in. And and it was fun. But it took us, Warcry's an hour-long game, and then it took us like 5 hours to film, and then it took me like 2-3 days to edit, and I put it out and it got 2,000 views, and I was like, I know I play 40k, but Jesus Christ. It's just really disheartening, and that's probably the problem. Whereas I can go, I filled Rogal Dawn's bottom, or I can go, I opened these loot boxes and get 20-30,000 views, and it's kind of like, it's bad to say I'm chasing numbers, but realistically,
but you need to.
You need a living. You need a living.
It is my job at the end of the day. So I get really clickbaiting, and people are like, "Why are you being so clickbait?" And it's like, because you keep clicking, and that's what I need you to do.
Slightly off topic, you just triggered me when you talked about Warcry cards. So I spent ages collecting the first Warcry edition.
Oh no! Oh no!
I got a folder. I'm really proud of my folder. I got all the cards in it.
See, I don't know where this is going.
Good. Well, you will, and we're not going to shut up about it for the next 4 hours because it triggered me. So I got a folder, and you got these nice cards. They're amazing. They've got all the information on there. It's universal. Got like a sheet for this faction, a sheet for this faction, all the way through. So I'm moving away. It's amazing. Cards. It's got some weight to it. I was really proud of it. And then they did the new edition Rotten Ruin stuff, and they brought out some compendiums, and all the rules have changed, all the stats have changed. Everything had changed, at least by either points or by like a tweak on the rules here, tweak on the rules there.
Can I just ask?
So I'm going to carry on playing using those cards.
Well, that's what we said. You don't have to buy the new one, PG.
No, I'm not. I refuse to. I literally refuse to buy.
Would it make you feel better if you brought the folder in and you showed the viewers at home your folder?
I will bring my folder in. I will.
Yeah,
and I'm proud of it.
When we have,
you should have seen these cards. That's it, now. You're all right.
Yeah, brilliant.
Also, like just off screen there, he's just like, lift it up, you're moving away.
Yeah,
Sorry, Pat,
it's easy for me to do when we have a guest on because
another thing as well,
just like
twiddling these knobs in the corner, innit?
When we have a guest on, people think he's on a shelf.
Yes, I kept thinking that because I said to you when you messaged you about it, I was like, are you going to be on the high chair? And I was like,
someone said, is Pat sitting on a tennis umpire's seat?
Yeah, because we're just looking up to like Jesus.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lord Pat, for this moment.
No, he's not even in the room. He's just a speaker. He's in the corner.
Or down the floor, we're a bit like...
Yeah, because I start off kind of like squatted down or leaning against the wall, and then I'm getting older and everything starts to hurt, and then I just stand up as the video goes on. So this question, so this one, they I think it's on the topic of clickbait and all that sort of stuff. And as creators, I think we know, like, we did some of the earlier videos me and Peachy did with painting Star Wars figures. It was kind of like we did some Kill Team videos, and they got 30,000 views when it was like, here's how to do
a clone trooper,
your breeches and your crew, and here's how to do your cassock-in, and they did really well. And then it was like, here's a clone. Here's Cassian Andor, and he's like, nah, not bothered.
4,000 views Cassian got. The clone got about 6, didn't it?
I think that they're increasing a little bit over
time.
But
we found that if we rename that to how to paint white armor fast.
Exactly. Gotta get the good slap in there. It's a shame because sometimes passion projects are fun. You know what I mean? Like painting Star Wars because you enjoy it. I really enjoy Warcry. I really enjoy Kill Team, but the problem is 40k is really big and it's really popular. And again, when you are trying to do passion projects, there's so many other people that are doing it full time. You know, there's so many other big channels like, you know, Tabletop Tactics, and there's Winters, and there's Tabletop Titans and all that, which are just absolutely smashing it, and they're doing really well, and I'm really really happy for them. But and then obviously the Play and Tabletop, the really big definers of doing traditional battle reports, they absolutely just like dominated this. It's almost like the beastification of YouTube, but just for Warhammer. They came in and now everyone's kind of taken stuff from them and done it that way.
I mean, when I was doing back reps at Warhammer Plus, they were like the biggest inspiration that we were told to draw from.
Because it's amazing. It's amazing. And it's like a team of like 4 full-time editors, basically, by the sounds of it. And they just know what they're doing. But so the bar became so high, and then COVID happened, so I did have to change my content anyway. And then I started doing battle reports for the early 9th, and they did really well, and then it started petering off, and I was like, well, again, I could spend all this time making a battle report, or I could live stream for a couple of hours, laugh at something, turn it into a video. It takes for comparison, again, battle report 18 hours editing, a live stream clip where I'm just taking it from a stream, it's like an hour. I can probably turn that out. And it gets like 3, 4, 5 times as many views. It's just, sadly, I'm just going to do that, right?
Like these videos.
And it's fun.
It's
very fun.
These videos, we've been rolling for, crikey, nearly 2 hours.
Oh dear, I'm sorry.
No.
Click-through rate's going to be awful on this one. 2 hours, shut up!
Everyone will listen to it in the car on the podcast.
Yeah.
And I did get it on Apple Podcasts.
Nice.
Because lots of people said that I should. And I thought I had. And I went back into it and I just forgot to hit publish.
Oh, you fool.
So apologies, everyone.
I'll be in there.
So this one says, and I have some opinions on this as well, but it's so he's talked about changing, and there's a few things about clickbait. But he says, do you ever wonder if more critical videos of Games Workshop are ones that cover recent controversy, and that's in exclamation markers, are a net positive to a hobby, or do you think they'd turn potential new hobbyists away?
So I feel like it's definitely an interesting one. The reason I like making critical videos is because, one, I think there's some genuine things to talk about.
Yeah,
the main point. But also, I come from like a time of YouTube as a viewer of everyone starting to just criticize each other for fun, and it's drama, diss tracks.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and it's kind of like that's kind of like the content I used to enjoy quite a lot, and that's also about when I started making YouTube videos. I was making not that. You know, I was doing something completely different.
Yeah.
And I always said to Elliot, obviously one of the other guys from the channel, I always said to him, I want to be the drama alert of YouTube for the 40k, you know? And like, no, probably not the greatest idol to look up to is old Keemstar, but probably, but you know, I was kind of like, calling out people is probably not quite good, but calling out big businesses is, I feel like is valid because, again, as I've mentioned a couple of times, if you've got a platform and you're just letting things slide by, that's fine. But you could also use that platform to try to do something good for people, for either people or groups that don't have that.
Yeah.
Or just general problems that maybe we could have a discussion about it. Because, like, in the title and the thumbnail, it always sounds worse than it actually is. But like,
definitely,
Games Workshop responded to my video. No, they didn't, but they did something.
Yes.
You know? It might have been related, it might not have been.
Yeah.
But
I think potentially some of the stronger opinions come from looking at thumbnails, not watching the video, and
which
being
you
like,
can totally understand. Yeah. Because, every second's important to everyone's lives, right?
Yeah. And then assuming that potentially, because I mean, we our chat shows where we've kind of talked about some negative things of Workshop. So like when we had James on, I was put the title, "Can you fix 40k?" which implies there's something wrong with it. Yeah. And then that sort of gets people to click. Or
it's intrigue, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole point of a title of the thumbnail. It's intrigue to be like, what are you on about? I want to find out.
Yeah.
And that is just how YouTube works.
Yeah.
And and again, sometimes you're just trying to force people to click on it. And some people, it's kind of like Spider-Man, isn't it? Great power, great responsibility. You know? That's what he always said. But if you're going to go out and clickbait and say something, then not deliver on that point, then that's bad, in my opinion. And it can drive people to either not watch your videos or just generate bad attitudes towards a company for no reason.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people use that, again, for bad. They're not the good guys.
Do you think, though, as well, that you can get, and I'm not suggesting for a minute this is you, but do you think...
I'm already offended.
Good. Is that extensive negativity can eventually just put you off a channel?
I think I know who you're talking about, and I think the thing is with it is they are being very successful with it.
I know, and it's like
people like drama, don't they?
It just leads you down a rabbit hole of like, the more I do this, the better my channel performs, and it's just going to drive that.
And I know, and it's the problem being is maybe, without sounding like I'm some moralistic, perfect human being, but it's that thing of just going, I just don't know whether my personal integrity could cope with that.
Yeah, and the problem is, I guess, again, like, I totally respect them if they're doing well, like, fair play. They're just playing the game, not the player's fault.
I mean, that's exactly my thought as well.
Yeah, but I've completely lost where I was going with that. But the thing is the problem is with that is if you do go too far, you build a community of negativity.
Yeah.
Like, again, it's like, Games Workshop is killing my channel was a big thing a year ago, right? There was like 4 channels. I think Dave MS Paints came on. He made a video about it, which was really interesting to like his thoughts about that thing. But and
what
then,
did he call it? Games Workshop kicked my dog.
Yeah. And then there's a lot of creators that I'm either friends with or just watch, and that all made similar videos, and they're just talking about the fact that like Games Workshop in a title or a thumbnail drives views because it's really popular.
Massively, yeah.
But then negativity also does, because people are like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And admittedly, I've lent into it quite a lot recently because there's been quite a lot happening, and I am a glorified keyboard warrior. I'm part of the cult, but I've got a camera and I like to shout at the camera rather than typing it.
Yeah.
So,
and I enjoy like criticizing but also laughing about it a lot of the time. And that's kind of like my vibe compared to others that are just like,
I think from just listening, obviously, to what you guys are saying, everyone loves the hobby. We won't be talking about it, right? So even though the ones that are a bit negative still love the hobby, still like the hobby, they have like opinions about a business or opinions about decision making. You'd be surprised to know this is the exact same level of conversations we used to have in the studios.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean the sculptors and the book designers and the artists and the painters hated the business they worked for, but they didn't always agree.
The problem is everyone's really passionate.
Exactly, and that's the problem when you get
so
passionate.
invested.
Exactly.
Either money, time, you know,
projects. You
space at home, pile of change.
Well, I mean, we used to put a lot of effort into the armies that we created in the army painting team, and when that army was like, we're not going to use that now, you'd get a room full of negative army painters. You'd have to close the door, put Power Ballad Friday on, and you'd just be like, right, come on. What's the problem? We've all got paid to paint this. We all had a bit of practice. It's not going to get done.
Yeah,
we don't get to own it. It's not our train set. Let's just move on to the next project. And they'd be like, oh, but I spent ages on that model and I really enjoyed it. I was like, yeah, no, I get it. And I'm the same. I spent ages on that unit, really passionate about it. But you'd have the same kind of level of like conversations, like, why are they doing this? Why is this happening? That's just normal. It's just normal people.
We're all really
passionate. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So to short answer, yes, it can be a problem if you lean into it too much. Yeah. And again, misuse the power that you've got, the platform that you've got to use it. But if you just laugh,
you can have a whinge as well. You're allowed. You're allowed.
Yeah.
Everyone's a whinge.
I mean, I've whinged about stuff.
I've whinged about stuff.
I feel like we consciously try and balance it out. I don't think channels like the one Jeff is like suggesting and stuff, I don't think they're a net negative for the hobby. I don't think it would put people off, because I don't. If a new hobbyist is like, oh, I want to learn how to paint my Space Marines, the likelihood of them coming across a video that's just like Games Workshop kick my dog is like another Dave thing is unlikely, and maybe they get more invested in it and its opinion, and you can watch it and you can disagree with it and all that sort of stuff. So
I mean, it's a good outlet for an opinion, right? And just people feel like that is gospel because it's a video, when it's not. It's just someone like myself having an opinion and either being really negative about it or just laughing because it's funny and it's fun to laugh.
I laughed out loud at one of your most recent videos where it's like topic and you were like, they haven't sold out, unlike me, and then you go into it.
Yes. And then you went mobile game advert for the first time. I
loved it. I loved every second of it. It was so funny.
Funny, absolutely funny.
But I think
we'll shut up now, shall we?
We should probably shut up. I feel like we've covered lots of stuff.
Yeah, that's been good.
Thank you very much for coming down.
Thank you so much for having me on, and thanks for all the Patreon questions as well.
Yeah, please subscribe to Hellstorm Wargaming.
Wargaming. Have another hobnob for that.
No, I really appreciate it. This is really fun, so thank you again for having me on.
No, it's been a pleasure. We'll stick all your links in the description.
Thank you.
And promote your tournament and channel and all that sort of stuff.
Subscribe to these guys on Patreon to support them.
Oh, there we go.
Thank you very much. Especially because we've got more stuff to give away at the moment for people who sign on to Patreon.
Novelty.
Oh yeah, there is. You just have to guess the name of Jeff's dog.
Yep.
Nice.
Oh yeah, we put it on last week's, which will go out today while we're filming this.
Yeah.
It's all very timey-wimey.
Crazy.
It's all very timey-wimey.
Forsy, timey-wimey. Wonderful. Right. Nice one.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate it.
Toodle pip.
Toodle pip.
Bye-bye.